Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Shahar. Like Jeremiah mentioned, I've been running crypto meetup groups here in Atlanta for the past year since I moved here. So if you're interested, and I think a lot of you seem to be, or you're getting started, whatever level you might be, we do meetups every month, usually twice a month. Actually, this Thursday we'll be at 3 Taverns, Imaginarium. So come network, meet other people involved in the space, ask questions. It's a fun time. Have some drinks. Come find me after if you want to talk about that. But so who am I? I'm a crypto native. I've been in the space since 2017, working professionally since 2018 in the space. Nowadays, I do a lot of advising projects in NFTs as well as in DeFi. I spent a lot of time in DeFi and help start and invest in projects like that. The big kind of NFT project I've been involved with is called Subducks. It's a 10,000 piece collection PFP project, so like profile picture project. And Subducks released in June last year. And to date, they've done over 22,000 in secondary market sales volume. So what is that? So what does that mean, right? That at 5% royalty, right? We're talking about 1,100 ETH, that has gone to that team in passive income, right? Is just secondary market sales, right? So that the millions of dollars, right? That allows the team to grow, allows them to hire people like me, and build out their community and just keep working on their roadmap, right? So the artist behind this, Frankie Nines, great guy out in LA, now gets to spend all this time, right, building out his vision for his art and his community, and that's incredibly powerful, right? So that's the kind of things, NFTs, can do, right, which we talked a lot about here. So, that's a brief intro.
Hi guys, my name is Michael. When you said we haven't met in real life, it's actually the truth. But till July, even after September, we talk every week through the phone or Zoom. But a little bit about me, I do live in Atlanta. I actually live just on the west border of Georgia Tech, so real Atlanta, not outskirts. But I'm actually born and raised in Oklahoma, believe it or not. So
you guys live a mile away from each other.
I know. Compared to other people I work with, I probably literally walk to the house. They're bad, COVID. But anyway, I was born in Oklahoma. I went to Texas A&M, and then I moved here. But my career, and my career up until 2018 was in digital marketing. So both in freelancing, both working for companies, I was doing marketing stuff. And at the time I was getting excited about kind of building communities with, social media tools, and, kind of building marketing, digital marketing and that stuff and marketing automation. So much so I would go to conferences thanks to the company that I worked for, in 2016, I got married to Carrie, he had me sign my book and, all kind of stuff. But then around 2017, 2018, I kind of, one, got more burned out with marketing stuff. Two, got more excited about the tech involved in marketing. So I resigned from my salary job and decided to become from a hobbyist developer, kind of building stuff on the side to actually for real doing it. And that's what I've been doing since then. And it was the summer of 2020 that I got involved with a group that specifically wanted to get a group of Black and people of color developers to get into the blockchain industry to build stuff. And that's where I got my eyes were open about tech, specifically in Web3, because I wasn't interested in investing in stuff, but seeing what you could build with blockchain technology, that was it. So fast forward March of 2021, I heard about this weird thing called Bored Apes on Clubhouse. And, what people were doing with NFTs, and, I wanted to get into the music part of NFTs, which is still new, but nowhere near it. So I said, I can code, so I need to learn how contracts work. So that's what I've been doing in the space since then. I met up with Jeremiah on Slack. We built NFT Xmas together and build the community there, build the website, all the Python coding he was talking about. I helped revise script on that, smart contract. The other major project that I worked on that's also based in Ethereum is you can pull this up if you want to, GenesisTapes.com. So there was an artist at 17 years old known by MC New York who moved from Baltimore to Marin City, California, and started his rap career. Fortunately, people decided that he should change his name to his actual name, which is Tupac Shakur. So this project is based off of the group that he was a part of when he was 17 years old in Marin City, California, the Jungle Posse. He met up with Karo, who produced the first ever song that Tupac recorded called All Many Days of the Criminal. And this was a group that he was supposed to be a part of when that song was made. The song has been leaked on YouTube. It's actually a reference track because Tupac wrote all verses for the four members. He's actually talking about himself in verse 3. But they never actually recorded anything beyond that. And even though him and Gable recorded other songs together before he left for Digital Underground, and that's about the clock they right there, and that's a YouTube video. They created this project in order to celebrate his early life when he was just discovering his ability before he became the big star that he was. So this happened in 1989. So it's a project with 1,989 images celebrating that time in Tupac's life. We just launched this at the end of January of this year. And unlike, me and Jeremiah, all the people involved in this are in California. So working remotely that way. But I was a sole man on this as well. So doing the contract, generating the images, all that stuff. The art is actually by a guy named Scam, who he's a hip hop album cover artist. He did the Slim Shady EP. He did Tribe Called Quest and Rhymes in Life. He did the logo for Drink Champs, if you've heard of that. And he helped create the art for this. So, and I'll talk about the other stuff that I'm working on right now, but like I like NFTs. I like NFTs, what they can do specifically for music, but other things. But I'm more excited about what you can build with blockchain technology, rather than how much money you can make off of it. And that's just
Real quick before we get to Lila, this is so weird. I just now put two and two together. I can't believe this is true, but you're the dev on my project. I had a conversation with Scam about this project before it came out because my dude Reed in California has been helping managing Scam. And so I almost came on board on that project. And I did not know that you were the dev until just now. I mean, I didn't put well, I did, and I knew that, but I did not put two and two together. That was Scam's project that we were talking about. And I even got that other shit to do with Scam. So that's just a crazy connect that apparently I almost worked on that project too. Weirdly enough. All right. Lila.
Yeah, it is. I know Adrian.
Oh, so you know Scam too? You know too? Like you know all.
And actually was going to help you out. So I'm Lila Polite. I was here yesterday. Some of you were here yesterday, so some of this might be a little repetitive. And then I'm going to answer some of it. And I'm going to answer some of the questions that were asked yesterday. And then you can ask me anything. As I said yesterday, I've been in this digital space for a very long time. So 1, 2, 3, probably 4, 5, 6. And, so I've worked every facet of entertainment, music, games, sports, film, TV, you name it, I've been there. And essentially helping people sort of commodify their intellectual property, helping them, package themselves, helping them grow in the space. And involved in quite a few projects, building both in the real world and in the metaverse. So Jeremiah mentioned before, we talked about Second Life. So I work, not Second Life is now called Samsung. So I help build spaces in that and build experiences within that space. I also work in other metaverses, and we create all kinds of cool stuff. And products, you name it, we do. So I'm not gonna hold up a lot of time here, but so feel free to ask me anything. The questions that I pulled up. Mainly, people have questions about just how to get in the space, how to protect their intellectual property, how to grow, how to not, just don't get stuck on the NFT thing, but how do you commodify your intellectual property? That's what it really was all about, was how to leverage your intellectual property. In honor of David Bowie, which is really where it all sort of stemmed from, was the Bowie bond. So everybody's in the training, flipping these NFTs and making money and royalties and all that sort of thing. But he understood the value of his work and went to Wall Street and said, hey, I've got, this body of work that's making money, that's made money, is going to make more money in the future. License it, you can flip it, you can repurpose it, whatever. Got $350 million, and that's was years ago. And so that is kind of the start of this whole sort of NFT thing, so, you can just digitize it. It's a great equalizer. I look at it as a great form of distribution. I'm really, really, really about championing independent. I work for some major, Viacoms, the record labels, Al Heyman, you name it. I've worked for just about everybody. And I work for a lot of big brands. I have my own agency. I work for other agencies. But it was really about cutting out. There was a gentleman here yesterday that had a great
I love that. He was a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer. So it's like, take back your power. I mean, you can work with people, you can collaborate, but take back your power. Don't just give your stuff away. Just, have your hands stuck out. Oh, I don't know, let me get you feel that kind of, think about the work and, the stuff that comes from your heart and from your soul and your spirit, or wherever it comes from, or your parents, whatever, and just don't give that stuff away. It's about, creating a legacy. Memory, so that's it.
Yeah, and that's what in Web3, I want to piggyback off that point. Web3, right, allows you to have that ownership, own a piece of the platform that you're contributing to, etc. And I just want to tell one quick story, because Jeremiah asked me to talk about, community aspect. So, I was at NFT NYC last year, with the Subducks guys, and we wanted to throw an event, right, for our community. So we didn't announce it at the conference. We didn't, announce it in any kind of publication. We didn't put it really anywhere in the traditional Web 2. What we did is we announced it in our Discord server in a channel that was gated to you have the NFT, right? So how do you stop that, right? How do you stop community formation when you can do it in this decentralized way? And all we have to do is look at the public blockchain, right, and see, do you have this NFT? Are you part of the community? Great, we can form, events that way. So pretty powerful thing that, just has not been possible before, to do kind of community formation in that way. And, that's one reason, right, that I think, over time, right, in the future, these communities that utilize NFTs, right, are just going to outcompete other communities, right, because you can't compete with that type of functionality, right? This decentralized, permissionless, verifiable, right, uncounterfeitable, right, way to prove membership in a community and kind of organize about that.
Well, I'm kind of old school, so I believe in talking to people. I believe in engaging with folks. I believe that, I don't seek permission from anybody to do anything. So, and I am about community and, building tribes and, to sort of connect with other people. But, kind of just talking to them. Just kind of picking up the phone.
So are you saying that you can actually pick up the phone and call someone if you needed help with something and not text or DM them, like speak to them on the phone. It seems that honestly seems so important in my NFT world and in my NFT community, especially on Twitter and stuff. I was thinking about that and how people are like, I have to speak to another human and these types of things. Yeah, but I think that it's very important, especially when we talk about local. We talk about here in Atlanta. Me and Michael had not even been in person and we handle all this stuff, but we very well could have got together over at Switch Yards, which is where I'm a member of the Switch Yards co-working space, which is the Slack channel where I come and put a call out into there, and that's how I was able to find him, right? So I think it's important to be broaching those things and start talking to each other in real life. And also, I wanted to go ahead and introduce Karo. I don't know how to pronounce it.
You said it partially.
I butcher people's last names, and so I get really sad if I do wrong. So.
My name is Karo Durojaiye, so I'm school. No, you were close. Karo Duro is essentially like my art name. You can find me at Karo Duro, but you're essentially right. I'm based here in Atlanta. I'm a visual artist, experience designer. I do a lot of stuff in like using art and technology. So you can kind of think of me as like an art director in the digital space, whether it's like VR, app development. And so because like I said, my background is in technology, so a lot of the work I do is kind of through that lens. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me and why I'm here today, kind of snuck into you guys' fireside chat.
No, exactly what we wanted. We want to go ahead and combine things because yesterday we had Lila and a couple other women up here, and we specifically wanted to have a women in NFTs panel yesterday and today, and due to just having some other great people that were coming in and joining with us, we'll just combine everything together today and just have everybody talking. Especially because time wise, I want to try to keep things keep going on the time wise. So I would just love to lead it off and start off and ask all of you a single question, have all of you answer, and then we'll kind of just expand it to there, and we'll start with some Q&A and stuff too. So with the NFT community here in Atlanta, you may have been in the NFT community digitally, you may have been striving there, or you may have been more in real life based. But I'd just love to hear your experiences of how you entered the community, whether it was more in real life or more digitally, and what were those first roads in that really made you think, that you want to be a part of the NFT community and be involved in what's going on? I'll start with Mark.
Yeah. So my first introduction to the NFT space was, I already knew about it and I was kind of plotting on it, like right around when, people grabbed that famous artist everyone saw, how he had the whole 60 million off of all his pieces, auctioned at Christie's in New York. But, so my first introduction to it was learning about that. But as far as my own personal way, my first NFT was in collaboration with a gallery in Europe. So I found out about them just through, you're scrolling on Instagram, you come across things. I'm a big person, and like when you see something, just save it, even if you're not gonna follow them or whatever. It's just there's a lot of cool stuff Instagram is gonna recommend to you, right? Because they have our data, right? So they recommend things that you like. And so I found this gallery that does like AR productions. And so if you don't know what AR is, that's augmented reality. And it's when you put your phone at something or you have like the glasses and you see, it takes you to it really takes you into the world that the artist is creating, whether it's like I said, your phone, iPad or whatever. And so I came across them. And so I entered like their first ever NFT gallery competition. They were looking for 10 artists to host over in Europe and share our works and things like that. So my introduction was really with somebody who was already in the space, the gallery and things like that. And so essentially they got us to send in our works and create these really elaborate installations over a gallery out there. And so when the visitors, oh my God, I literally live in the computer world. When the visitors came in, they were able to kind of either shop our NFTs and kind of explore it and learn about the artists and things like that. So my first introduction was really through the internet, but it was integrated with real life. So people could come into the gallery and see the pieces and things like that. So yeah, that was mine.
Mine was definitely digital. I didn't like it all. Like I said earlier, it was through seeing all these NFT rooms and discussions on the Clubhouse app around March. I joined Clubhouse in January for tech and music, but then all of a sudden, 2 months later, all I saw was these, NFT this, how to make an NFT that. I'm like, what is an NFT? And then realized it was code. It's like, okay, cool. And then seeing people do art, and it was also around this time that people were really excited about Bitcoin today with the reviews company. I know about that again mentioned it. And then also, I think the first NFT Miami that was happening. But like up until then, like everybody was talking about NFTs, and I didn't see any real life stuff yet. But everybody was talking about it on Clubhouse, and then let me see what's going on Twitter. And I see people talking on Twitter, and Discord, and then Reddit. So for me, just now, at least for me personally, just now, people are talking about it in real life. Once more mainstream people have either adopted it or more curious about it. But for me, it's like it's been completely digital.
Again, like I said before, I'm old, so I've been doing this for a long time. My first introduction to the digital space and doing immersive projects and digital projects, be it games or streaming, called streaming back then, called webcasting. It was like one of the first people to ever webcast Summer Jam. That was in 1990. You talk about the Top Shots now. I created Top Shots, if you will, for the NFL 12, 13 years ago. So, nothing wrong to me. I like, creative at heart. I work with lots of different creatives. I'm always trying to explore different ways to engage and be involved and immerse myself in different kinds of work. Immerse myself in the art, conversation, into the space. So, when a few years ago they started with NFTs, in fact, my journey getting up said, we got to use NFTs, we started on my podium. And, how we could be involved. And then from there, just been helping people live in the space.
Yeah, so I've been working in blockchain since 2018, and I was actually working for IBM. And so I was on kind of like the enterprise blockchain side, thinking about more like enterprise use cases for a while. And so honestly, NFTs were on our radar as a major use case for a long time. And in fact, we built one of the first, I would say, definitely the first in government NFT blockchains for the U.S. Postal Service. It was kind of a pilot project where we were tracking mail, right? We were tracking mail pieces. So every mail piece, right, is unique. And so it had its kind of unique, it was a unique asset on the blockchain, basically, an NFT, right? And I got some crypto kitties back at the end of 2017. That was the wrong project to get. I should have gotten lots at the same time. I always kind of knew, NFTs were always on my radar. And there are so many use cases for NFTs, guys. We are really just scratching the surface with our art is just one thing, right?
Truly, it's affecting art, music, sports, films, like books, the NFT, it's just.
And then that's all just kind of on the entertainment side. Some things I'm really excited for, particular, identity, credentials, other physical assets like real estate. NFTs are, I think NFTs are going to eat the world, right? I think it's really like no exaggeration. It was always on my radar. I was always very excited. I was more thinking about those other use cases. I never could have expected, and nobody did, what happened last year, with this Cambrian explosion, right, in the artistic world. And what it's done for the space, what it's done to bring in new people has just been really incredible. So I've just been kind of watching in awe, losing money here and there as I try to buy, NFTs. But yeah, I have a lot of it. I actually got a print done of an NFT here at Ponce in the the binder's shop. And I remember I went in, I had the print. Someone had done the print for me after I showed them the NFT. And I gave the woman, it was a hash mask. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept. Got a hash mask. So I wanted, a print of my hash mask. I was like a collector. And the art shop lady is like, oh, that's and it had a QR code at the bottom that I put on it. She's like, oh, that's a really nice print. We'll try not to damage it, as we put in a frame. And I was like, oh, don't sweat it. The print is really no big deal. Really, it's a non-fungible token on the Ethereum blockchain. And the art shop lady is just get that one. But yeah, so that's a bit of my early experience.
Yeah. So you see where everybody's come from, very diverse backgrounds. People come towards it from different directions. And it's very important to highlight that everybody in this room together that is thinking about becoming part of the NFT community or involved with NFTs or learning about them, we all can come from very disparate parts of all this. We've got hardcore, physical, non-digital, non-crypto artists that do not even engage necessarily in the tech side of it, and honestly don't want to. They want to have their team do that stuff. We've got people that want to do everything and do it all. We've got people like the local Atlanta group, Down to Earth, that was here yesterday. It's a local NFT project. They put all their stuff together. They got this great idea of it. They're very hiking oriented, all that. See people coming in from the tech side, from the sports management and the industry side, from crypto, from blockchain, and just super interested in blockchains. And when he's talking about NFTs eating the world, he's thinking about it from the perspective of how they'll become ubiquitous in our society. Not that everyone will try to get a Bored Ape. There's just like, when you go buy a T-shirt 5 years from now, that T-shirt might technically be unique because it has an NFT attached to it. And if there's an intrinsic value that is above the normal T-shirts because it has that, maybe that's important. Or maybe they're just using it to track which warehouse they send it to in Alabama. And they can verify for sure it made it to Alabama because the NFTs are on there. Right now they're using barcodes, which barcodes are very similar to the NFTs work. But when you go to that Web3 immutable way, then outside APIs and tech people can track that same shipment at the same time for their own purposes. Maybe the people that produce the sugar that went in the cereal, that produced the box of cereal, wants to know when their sugar went from the farm all the way to your bowl in the cereal, not just the sugar itself. They can track that. And they can track it from seed to store when it comes to all kinds of things. In Colorado, I've heard that they track the marijuana plants that they grow legally. They track them from seeds with a little zip tie on them with a barcode, right? They track it from a seed all the way till it's harvested, all the way to the store, and all these things. So people are starting to think about Web3 ways of integrating those types of things so that they can be useful. Same thing with the pharmaceutical industry. If you have 2 bottles of OxyContin and one has the NFT on the top that proves that it's verifiably true within a private blockchain inside of that medical industry, they can secure those drugs. And when Chinese imports come over, or just wherever they come from, they tend to come from China though. When a lot of these imported drugs come in that are illegal and fake and manufactured in a black market situation, they can't have that NFT. That NFT can't just be made and be on top of it. So verifiability. So as we think about this and all the different ways that people come into this, what are you excited about? What are you excited about for the future? What are your plans in the NFT world currently? Anything that you do want to share? And if there are any what we call alpha, anything that people would love to learn about that not everyone knows about, that might give someone either a leg up or really get them excited to jump down a rabbit hole tonight when they go back to to the internet. What kind of things are you thinking about in that way, Paul?
Yeah, I'll speak from like the artist perspective, right? Because you were talking about how it's outside of entertainment. There's so many, so I'll let you handle that. But from an artist perspective, something I would say I'm super excited about is the fact that there's a lot of sustainability is making its way through the NFT community, and that was one of the big things that I was really waiting for. When the gold rush happened in the artist space, and a lot of people kind of started everyone's minting their NFTs. One of the things that worried me a little bit was that aspect of the earth and like how that would quote unquote damage it. People have their own belief systems about that and stuff like that. But so I would say, I'm looking forward to ETH 2.0 as an artist. I feel like if we're going to be churning out these pieces of work to be used as a form of like a token or a currency or something somebody can hold and be like, wow, I own this officially, especially if you're going to be churning them out. Like I say, look towards the sustainable aspect of it, and so that's really one thing I'm looking forward to. I would say something I think that artists, if you are an artist that wants to get into NFTs, is really thinking about looking into like what this concept of like incentive-based NFTs are, right? And when I say that, I mean like how certain NFTs are used for, you can get into certain private clubs, building a community through that. You do that with your NFTs, right? So I think as an artist, definitely diving yourself deep into how to really create programming around it, because if you're not famous with like 5 million followers, there's people out there that have 1,000 followers, 500 followers, and they're making money. There's people that don't even have Instagrams, and I think the world can be very intimidating to new artists entering that space. So really looking up how to build that programming around like what you do and look into creating discords and things like that and do your own airdrops. So those are some buzzwords I would say, like from an artist perspective, if you're entering the space, looking towards it, but definitely focusing on that sustainability aspect as well.
Opportunity is what gets me so excited about this particular space. Like I was saying, you said that like the big explosion of visual art in the NFT space. I came into the NFT space, kind of seeing like what where like just putting your music out or digital rights, with copyright or things of that nature. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if you haven't got a chance to look at these different types of chains like Polygon, Ethereum, Cardano, you need to look on their Discords and on their Twitter and see what grants they have available for startup ideas. When I tell you that there is money out there and they want to throw it at you, if you want to build something, you need to do it. One in particular, besides my own music, like I'm a big fan of, like R&B, specifically 90s R&B, really jam rock, that's starting out. Like you'll probably not find a bigger fan that's going to be than I am. But I love 90s R&B. Like you can talk about SWV, but you may not know about the Good Girls, or you may know about Blackstreet, but you may not know about The Day. Like I said, just R&B groups that you may not know about because like I like all 90s R&B. The reason why I'm going to that is like I want to bring, R&B music into the NFT space. Music NFTs are happening. There are actually specific music NFT marketplaces out there, but most of them cater to EDM music, some to hip hop. In fact, EDM music accounted for 80% of music NFT sales last year. And I thought with R&B, like there needs to be an alternative for that. So it just so happens that I looked on one of my Slack channels and there's another protocol called Oasis Protocol that doing a blockchain startup accelerator, and I told them this idea to build an R&B marketplace. And after 2 interviews, they said, okay, let's do it. So I'm a part of their inaugural call for it to build with the business. That's going to be the name of my marketplace. And for all the people who are giving $25,000 in their Rose token and getting up the funding up to 1.3 million more for the fund. So, like I said, like he said, there's more than just visual art. But once you figure out what you want to do and how to make NFT and blockchain more, NFTs and blockchain fit into that, go look for these grants, go look for these opportunities. Opportunities what I'm most excited about, specifically, for people coming like me. So go on the Discord, go on the Twitter, and you'll find them, find the application time, find the deadlines, and trust me, you'll be able to start building what you want to.
Yeah, talk to me definitely about that. There are a lot of projects. Talk about that. I'm excited about it all, but specifically working on a museum for a Juneteenth museum, which will be both a physical museum and a virtual museum. Working with the book, which is an agency that represents all forms of creatives, artists, filmmakers, what have you, sculptors. So we represent those folks, and we're building a specific marketplace for them. But it won't just be specific to people in that agency. We'll be opening the doors for other people, but creating it, aside from OpenSea and all these other kinds of places, but kind of really cool, environment and virtual gallery and marketplace specifically for creatives and more important, independent creatives. And in that, obviously, represent or do work for all these big brands. So it opens up opportunities for artists beyond just NFTs to do work for, Chanel, College Outlet, all of these other kinds of people, Ford and all those other kinds of folks. And then I have my own marketplace that I'm building, and lots of music NFT projects. So just all kinds of cool stuff, building more spaces in the metaverse with more events, concerts, runway shows. We actually take live performances and flip them straight to NFT. So we have a lot of established artists, emerging artists, just want to get in, like I said, you want to make some money, you want to do some things, and I'm not just, stuck in the NFT space. I still live in the real world, and a lot of people still want physical stuff. So you have to be able to help them go beyond just the digital. You have to be able to help them modify all the way around. Some folks are just not going to get with the digital world. They're just not going to do it. So, and short, you took your print, your NFT to be printed. Some people want a T-shirt. Some people want a lithograph. Some people want a film. I don't want to just show it to you on the phone. Or I'm not going to get a Samsung screen TV that now shows it. There are just other things that you can do. So don't limit yourself.
Yeah, 100% agree with everything that's been said. I want to give you, I guess, I'll answer the question at a high level, and then I'll give you a few examples. So what I'm most excited about, in a word, is composability. Okay, so never before in history have we been able to have these unique assets, right, that can themselves act as Legos in a larger ecosystem. So, what do I mean by that, right? Say, someone here does an NFT, okay, or say it's Fabian's NFT, and you decide, wow, I really like that NFT. I'm going to make a virtual experience that plugs into that NFT. So maybe there's something in that experience, maybe it's a room in a world or a level in a game or something like that you can only access if you have the NFT, right? And that's quite easy to do in Web3. So when you think about that, right, the sky is really the limit. And the only limit, right, is people's creativity around what can we build on top of different NFTs, right? So you don't have to start your own NFT project, right? You can find one you really like, and you can start to build on top of that. You can just make those NFTs kind of the key, right, into those things. You can do different things with different sorts of NFTs. You can say, well, if your NFT has such and such traits, right, now you get this type of access, right? So that's just beginning. And, when I think about that, I really think we are entering, right, if we can manage to keep the world sane just for a bit longer, right? I think we're entering a really what will be a golden age for artists and creatives, right, building in this new world where they actually get to monetize, right, and decide on their own distribution and engage directly with their fans, right? It is going to be a golden era in that respect with the composability. Let me give you a couple other pretty cool examples, right? So there's a project which I invested in that is working on doing collateralization for NFTs, right? So if you have a Bored Ape, right, and you've spent, I don't know, maybe you bought it at Mint, you only spent $50, maybe you spent $100,000, whatever. Right now it's worth several $100,000, right? That's like locked capital, right, that you can't really do anything with, but hey, you have a nice, image of an ape. Well, with this platform, right, you will actually be able to use that NFT as collateral and borrow some percentage of the value, right, to actually use in the real world. So I can borrow, if my ape is worth $300,000, maybe I can borrow $150K and, go buy a house, right, or whatever. Is that something like that?
That's all it is. It's an ability to take what you have to leverage your intellectual property for money. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. That's why you see these people selling their catalogs. They're getting cash for it. And those people that are buying the catalogs are going to take it and repurpose it and license it to Ford or you or whomever and repurpose it and break it up. And, maybe they might take a clip and put it on Instagram and then, you might find it on ESPN or whatever. But, somebody's going to advertise against it. That's all.
That's all right. You can kind of continuously leverage and compose, on top of these different things. And, so with the collateralization, right, and then, that's even going to go to another level. I know there's, people working on this, right, where maybe you don't have a Bored Ape, you have some NFT, right, and you can literally create kind of an offer to say, basically, right, is there anyone out there willing to lend me $5,000 against this NFT over a term of 3 months, and I pay back at 8% interest, right? And literally anyone, right? If someone is like, hey, that's a good deal. I think this person's good for it. And if not, I'll have the NFT, right? I'll do it. And now you have peer-to-peer, right? NFT lending, collateralization.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like the security-backed NFTs, the big NFTs, even the Juneteenth Museum. It's just like the group secured enough money to secure the building, but still needs more to take it out. And so they're offering NFTs in exchange for you get a piece of it. Like you get a piece of it.
Right, so that's like fundraising, right?
Yeah, kind of fundraising, but you get some equity out of it, and they're leveraging the actual building.
The building itself.
For money. So, and you're right about working together. All NFT is an experience. When you're selling your art, when you're selling whatever, you're selling an experience. So you have to think of it that way. Just don't go at it like, willy-nilly, cash grab. Everybody is not going to make money off NFTs. I'm here to tell you now. So everybody's not going to jump up and be a rapper or whatever.
I'm exhibit A.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not going to happen for you. So, not to burst your bubble. I'm not about bursting anybody's bubble. I'm just about, hey, just let me help you what you have and craft it in a different way, package it up so that you can have, you can make a couple coins. And, everybody likes tacos. I like a couple of bucks. But you're creating an experience. How are you engaging people? Why are they buying this? They're not just, art can be so subjective. I don't like trap music. I like house music. I like I was a concert promoter forever. So all these people, when I watched New Edition, I was there when they started. So I like that stuff. What can we do to bring that back? What can we do? I'm putting out vinyl. I'm putting out cassettes. I'm putting out other kinds of stuff that people can hold on to, and it's about that's I'm coming an artist, so it's my thing. So
it's about experience.
Yeah, it's about experience, and that's what you're selling. So don't go down that funky, rabbit hole algorithms and all that other kind of bullshit. Just go for it. It's about what's in your heart, and your soul, your spirit. That's what you're selling, and that's what people connect with. People buy people, period.
I definitely agree with that. And that goes right into a great transition for what I would say is experiences. And into the call, I'll get you back to that. But experiences and speaking to that, because something that I have really been figuring out and working on is what type of experience am I trying to produce in my art? Whether it's with Christmas trees and raising money for charity, the experience for that was fun. You got stuff. And the number of presents under your tree indicated the number of presents I was going to give you. Things like that. And we kept, fun and, upbeat. And the way that I showed it to them, we hung out in Discord, we hung out over on Twitter. And then I found all these cool virtual galleries like cyber.xyz that it allows you to take your NFTs and stick them into a virtual gallery that can be accessed on a phone browser. And so you can start creating these virtual experiences. And I've taken it on that lower level. I've taken it to the second level of going to the metaverses. And I've DJed in the metaverse before, over in a metaverse called World Wide Web. I actually DJed in the courtyard of this 2D metaverse. And we played a bunch of punk rock music and house music and just a bunch of cool stuff. And it was an unauthorized party. I didn't ask the devs. I literally crashed it. I put a flyer. I made an old school flyer, put it up on Twitter, told all my wizard friends, let's go and hang. I'm going to play some Slayer. I'm going to play some house music. I'm going to play all kinds of crazy stuff. And we got together and I played this punk rock show right there and didn't ask anyone in the team or the community, like the people that run the project. I didn't ask any of them for permission to enter their world and throw this party. But I still did it. And I streamed it live on Twitch, and I created that experience. And I even did some extra stuff where I created some inner experience stuff that you can only experience if you join the Twitch stream, And then I also created what's called a POAP, a proof of attendance NFT. And everybody who actually came to the courtyard with their little avatars and came in there, I gave them an NFT that's a proof that they came to my event, and that NFT's art is similar to the flyer that I made.
Is it like that's old school? Like if you went to the concert,
It's exactly what I was thinking.
If you could get into the after party.
I played a whole bunch of punk rock shows all my whole life, so I'm like, I'm just going to do the thing over in World Wide Web.
Yeah.
So speaking to that, and then to my highest level, I hosted a couple of events over in Horizons World, which is Facebook / Meta's virtual world. And over there, it's a lot of fun. I had a great time over there. Met so many people, some wild folk over there. It's wild. It's wild over there because it's just now Steam. So speaking to that, and I'd love to hear from you, and I'll start over on your side here, talking about experiences, because you definitely have created a lot of in-person experiences, but what is your thought process on NFT communities related to experience when it comes to community and when it comes to, and I'll let you all speak to your different genres, what artists could do to create those things, what kind of experience you like to create, whether it's come to my virtual gallery or come to this virtual event, come to this in-person event, and then just one more layer on that is the difference in in-person and virtual events and what your feels are on those different experiences. We'll start.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the experience, like we've been saying, right? The sky's the limit. Any experience, because it's so easy, right, to verify who has what NFT and how holding it and etc. Right? You can provide any type of experience you want based on those things. So. We are probably going to do an NFT for our kind of meetup group at some point. We need to find a local artist and do it the right way. But we can offer a whole bunch of stuff through that, right? We'll give the NFT to our kind of most engaged meetup group members. It'll be a great way to kind of signal your engagement, right? Your commitment, and it'll be a great way for us to be able to reward that, right? Do private events. Or give discounts, right? Or work with merchants locally, right? To do events, discounts, anything you can think of, and kind of add value, right? In that kind of way, while giving the community something to kind of coalesce around, right? That they know is decentralized, right? Not reliant on. It's not going to work. It's not reliant on one kind of thing. I want to speak, and this is the thing I also wanted to say, because I'm very excited about it, and it is, an experience-based thing that we have. I don't think has really been touched on, right? Is play to earn, right? This whole universe of gaming is right now getting completely transformed by NFTs, right? For the longest time, right, we've all played games, right? I've spent many hours, right, playing games, and what do I have to show for it? Right? Maybe I have a certain rank, maybe I have some skins, but as soon as I leave that game, all that stuff's worthless. Right? Nobody knows, nobody cares. It's like the Chuck E. Cheese model, right? It's like where you go, you play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Get your Chuck E. Cheese tickets.
Hey, I make a lot of money.
Okay, that's great, but you get all your Chuck E. Cheese tickets, as soon as you leave Chuck E. Cheese, they're worthless. And by the way, I actually read the Chuck E. Cheese terms and conditions. It turns out that Mr. Cheese, Chuck E. Cheese, has the right to void your tickets anytime they want. Right? If they don't like you, all your Chuck E. Cheese tickets are void. Don't try it. So we've been in that model for a long time, and just now we are kind of expanding the model to where now all these people who are building games, right? Where as you progress the game, as you spend time, right, as you level up, whatever, you get NFTs, right? Your skins, maybe your NFTs, your experience NFTs, your achievements, badges, ranks, whatever are NFTs. And those things conceivably, right, could have worth outside the game, right? Because they live on a public blockchain, right? That transcends any single game. So maybe I'm playing one game for a long time, put in lots of hours, and so I have some NFTs or some things that I earned to show for it. And then maybe I don't want to play that game anymore. Well, now I can go, to an NFT marketplace and sell those NFTs for ETH, for ADA, or for stablecoin or whatever, and go, use that to go into the next game, right? Maybe the next game I want to play, or maybe I use it to feed my family, right? There are people in the Philippines over the past year who have literally been making a living. They found out they could make more playing these play-earn games in currency they could sell, for ETH. on the blockchain than their regular jobs. Or maybe they didn't have great employment opportunities. So literally entire families in the Philippines were playing these games, right? The devs actually thought they were bots, right? Because they were playing nonstop. So they started to ban them. And then these people, are calling them up like, hey, like, this is my livelihood. I'm actually a real person playing this game. Please let me back in. Or please, unban my IP, right? And so they did that, right? It was kind of came as a surprise, but so play to earn gaming is very real. Over the past year, I can tell you, tens, hundreds of billions of dollars have flown into that space specifically, and so over the next couple of years, we're going to see lots of play to earn gaming titles coming out, and all sorts of different flavors. Some of them are going to still be probably crappy. Some of them will be cool. Some of them are going to be AAA, right? Some of them are building on Unreal Engine 5, with, the best graphics and doing different things. So it's going to be an exciting time for gaming in general and play to earn gaming specifically over the next few years.
Question about play to earn. Where's that money coming from? Is it because you're not paying to play it's backwards. Like, where's the source of that money?
So, oftentimes you are perhaps paying something to play the game. And it depends. So, this gets into more kind of tokenomics and the design, right? But, it can be a token that is kind of just created, in the game. So, it maybe it has value, whatever the market's going to pay for it. Oftentimes, like what Axe did, right, is their token actually can govern the game, right? So if you have an excess token, right, you can have some say on the future direction of the game. And that game in particular does make revenue, from, I think they maybe take some cuts of transactions that you make. There's also, so there are certain aspects of the game, like in Axe, you can breed, right? Or you can, do these sorts of actions. You pay some crypto, some of the in-game currency to do that, and then that, kind of gets redistributed. So it can be, it depends what you want to do, but it can be revenue. It can be revenue that the game actually makes that you're routing back to gamers in that way. You could be routing it to them directly. You could be routing it to kind of like a DAO treasury, like a treasury that's managed, governed by the token holders. That's an interesting model, right? And that's great for incentive alignment, as long as you do it right. Or it can just be stuff you create, right? And maybe it doesn't have value, maybe it does, right? And the market will decide. So sky's the limit. You can create that stuff however you want.
So go to award pool.
Go to where?
Award pool.
Award.
Because that's the whole, play to earn, but it's all about the reward system, getting an award for, membership for playing. So it, up to getting NFT, they're just different kinds of stuff that you get, kind of like Chuck E. Cheese or I came from Starbucks. So, you get stuff for participating, for being on that platform, or being part of someone's site, or being part of someone's, NFT drop. And so you get, you're just not, willy-nilly going like that. And this is a gentleman that helped build Amazon. So. Experience. Oh, we talked about experiences. Yeah, all kinds of experiences. I believe, in doing mixed reality. Like even in the metaverse, you can do mixed reality. Just not everybody doesn't have to be. So everybody doesn't need to be as an avatar. So to the mixed reality, or when we do say an exhibit or a gallery opening, it opens not just in the real world. So roll call, this wonderful, we can see your stuff, and everybody's stuff in here. They can see it on the screens or whatever, but they can also go into a wild experience into another on the same day at the same time. So, we do a lot of live to stream, live to metaverse, live to wherever. So I'm about the mixed reality. Just again, everybody's just not into it. And on the platforms that I use, you don't have to wear the glasses to enjoy the experience. I mean, if you have the glasses, it's more immersive, it gives you a different kind of feel, but for me, it make me honest. So I don't, I can only wear them so long. But I can still, these two things, I can still see art, I can still hear music, I can still dance, I can do whatever I want in that space. So creating those two. And then I just create, non-virtual experiences. People just hang out, sweat.
I would say, I guess, your point, right? Like I personally like more of the experiences. I do like the ingenuity of the metaverse and having those experiences. I think the timing was great. So, like, even though NFTs have been around a lot longer than we think, like when the NFT metaverse kind of, got big, it was around, 2021 after we've been a year in the pandemic. So most people have not spent much time meeting in person. But then you got to go into the metaverse and then you talk as if, you're meeting with people and stuff like that. And then, using conversing, using audio apps like Fanbase, like Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces. So I think the metaverse experience has been great. I think the timing of it was great. Because I think eventually more people will be asked to adopt if this would happen in, say, 2015. People, like the real tech nerds, like, let's do it. But then other people are like, no, let me do real life stuff first.
Not to cut you off, but people want to engage. So for in the music space, doing immersive experiences and doing eliminations and doing digital concerts and those kinds of things, it helps you connect with your fan base. It helps you connect with Bieber or whoever you like. You could imagine being on the stage with them and seeing it from their point of view. So those kinds of things have been happening for some time, and so NFTs were just icing on the cake for those guys. It's merchandise. It's just another form to connect and commodify and sell your stuff. You all have got to get out of that. The NFTs, it goes beyond that. And if you get stuck there, you'll be stuck there. Trust me, you'll be back in, the internet. So,
that's probably good. It's actually going to my other point is that, like, not just the physical experience, like the experience in concerts and stuff like that. Like, what I get excited about music is that NFTs allow music to be collectible.
Yes.
So you'll see people sell their NFTs whether on OpenSea or if they're selling, which I always prefer to sell from your own website.
Yes.
Because that 10% royalty is better on secondary sales when you're making 100% on your primary. Then OpenSea, but that's a whole topic for another time. I'll get on that later. But just instead of depending on Spotify for streams or Apple Music, whatever, you can actually, have like, I'm waiting. Vinyl's been there for a while. I'm waiting for cassettes. Okay. Awesome. So like having, instead of giving an NFT, maybe the unlockable, as Jeremiah talked about earlier, would be a physical vinyl copy or something like that, a signed poster, autographed lyrics. But you get to make music collectible again instead of depending on, your app on your phone or your stream on your computer in order to experience it. And that's an experience in itself, just having something, even if it may still not be technically physical, but depending on what the unlockable is, but it's still making more experience in it, experiencing the art from the artist in a different way versus, okay, I let this song play on my Spotify account for a couple times a day. But that's an experience too. It's not just, concerts, which is good, and metaverse stuff. Is taking things that have been probably delved too much into the digital world, kind of making it more real. Even if it's still all digital, it still makes it more real for people to experience. And that's what I was talking about experience.
Yeah, right. Like playing a song to where the music or to that tape pops.
Yeah, I joke all the time, like I'm so much of a music collector in real life and, in virtual life. People talk about how to get a new car and have a new car smell. I still remember Lucas Sessman.
Oh my God.
When you over the sea and you smell, when you first open up the second, I'm serious when I say it. That's how much you like that.
As far as experiences go, I mean, that's one of the things, as artists, whether you're a visual or a music artist, I am a digital artist, but a lot of my work really combines like the real world, so like photography mixed in, and then I take it to the digital world. And so for me, my work isn't necessarily viewed in screens. It's printed large in galleries and things like that, and then I interact with it with mixed reality or AR and things like that. And I'm a huge believer and proponent just outside the concept of like world building. So even when it comes to the website, you have, does it align with how you present yourself in the physical world? Like my website is a whole world. When you go into it, you dive in and you understand and you see the stories. As far as like integrating it with reality, right now I'm working on a project called Data Rituals, and basically it's a multi-step project. Right now I'm in the phase of like dropping the NFTs for it. Unleashing. It's really an unleashing. But the project is really based on this idea of us becoming aware about where our data is going, the ethics and technology. I'm really very passionate about that space. So this world I'm building really takes you into this strange world of like, what are they doing with our data and what are we signing up for? And kind of telling this story of like, these rituals. When you sign that, I acknowledge the Instagram, telling them you can track me across these different websites, and kind of like personifying and creating this world in the world we already live in, so that people who are engaging with the activations or engaging whether you buy the NFT, they're almost brought into this secret space. And so when they buy this NFT, they're invited to the Data Rituals activation, and there's going to be some really interesting things that we talk about when we experience and they see and they feel a part of it. Thank you. And so. That
all the brands that don't want to come after you.
And then I'm going to get you to sign the NDAs. Because that's exactly that's what's on the NDA.
Well, we definitely.
We're dropping alpha, so everybody.
We're gonna sorry. But yeah, and so back in like I believe the early 2000s, there was a video game that came out. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but when you bought the video game, what happened was that the company would send you emails, and this was back in the early 2000s, so that was really cool. Like you're getting emails as part of like the game, and it seems like it's real. You're reading news articles about like what's going on in that world. You're brought in, and so that same concept of reality. And I'm not making things. We're not making things up. We're pulling out like real historical facts about the beginnings and the origins of things, and then what does the future hold for this world that we're in? And so we're telling it from that like story perspective, kind of dystopian and sci-fi in nature. And so yeah, it's a series of NFTs. If you have the NFTs, you're going to be allowed in this secret space. And so that's where it comes into this incentivization of your artwork. Like I'm a digital artist, but I do not believe in staying in the digital world all the time. I really believe that the digital world is just a realm, a layer on top that we can explore. We can almost like manifest what's in your mind and be able to show people, and so that's kind of my like perspective on it. And I feel like, as artists, we have to push the boundary. We have to go further than what other people are doing. I love what I see across the NFT space, but I really do believe in this concept of like rarity and creating just experiences. Not everything is about money, and so that's where I kind of land on that perspective.
I love that. What is it back in there? Yeah, I absolutely love that. And so you see how different the perspective can be between technology and artistry in real life, virtual. But you see like the synergy that's being created so deeply. It's because it's really about community at the heart. And it's also about creativity. And that creativity is not just on like, the painting or art or, creative side in that way. It's on the digital coding and the creative side that way, because a smart contract is a work of art as well. And it is truly a work of art. And in some smart contracts, of course, are specifically works of art because that code generates an image. And I love what you're talking about integrating from both sides. If you got the NFT, we're going to give you something, in real life that's worth engaging with. If you come to the gallery and you see this real life one, maybe you scan the QR code and it adds a whole layer of the virtual world to it. And then when you leave, you've had this experience, but you take something along with you. whether it's not just the experience, you take an actual asset with you, a digital asset, but something that literally goes into your wallet, and you got it with you, and years from now, you were at that event. You were definitely at the event. You experienced that. You might bring that up and show somebody and prove it. You have a deep connection with that artist that can never be broken. Like the people who have those experiences, they're always going to remember that. And if you want to build a wide base that is strong and won't collapse, you need those people in your camp. They say that your first fan is your greatest. Your 100th fan is super important, way more important than your millionth fan. But your 101st fan is still more important than your millionth. And as you keep going on that line, those deep connections you make. And I love this thing about digital and NFTs and stuff because it used to be that, like when you left with like a gift bag or something like that, you looked in that gift bag, ditched all the little flyers they threw in there because there's not actually a value. You found like the one branded, cool thing that was in there, and maybe you still have that on your desk today, a mouse pad, a t-shirt, something like that. We're giving away these t-shirts earlier. There's no way a person can't walk the street wearing a CNFT t-shirt, run into another person who knows what that is, and y'all don't strike something up. It's much different than me wearing a Gucci shirt. Like, yeah, it's a cool Gucci shirt. See, you got a CNFT shirt? What? Oh, man, so that means you were in. And so now it's like you're talking about that secret society that doesn't have to really exist. We have a secret society now that doesn't exist. And it has no real membership borders. You can do whatever you want in it. You can be a part of it. The NFT, the membership clubs, of course, there's certain gated entry to that. But the idea of being a part of all of it is wide open. And that's something that you see, like, there's no victimization or anything to talk about in these things. We've got, underrepresented classes of people up here. We've got, people from all walks of life up here. We've got people that, are deep in the industry, who are just figuring out the industry, and really interesting mixes like Fabian, who is deep in the art industry, has been here for a long time, and is the first to admit that he had to be slow walk towards this stuff, But now he's like, oh, I think I see something here, And this is a very well-respected artist in town. And you have other artists that will come from the exact opposite perspective, pure digital, never met any of us in real life. And you'll be just as impressed, obsessed, and find the collectability in those pieces as the person you've seen in real life because they're creating that narrative and that story. And so it's just all about that. Well, that's what I love because I'm sure that we're starting to brew some questions in here. I'd love to open up the floor to ask some questions and get some feedback and just to see what you guys are thinking and any other specific topics you want to cover too. Yeah, that's right here.
Hi, my name is Tanya. I'm from Charlotte. And it's great to be meeting you here in Atlanta. I'm a filmmaker and an independent filmmaker. I pretty much self-finance all of my films. I have a portfolio of maybe about 8 or 9 films, 7 or 8, something like that. And I definitely want to monetize my films, and I have other scripts in mind, other things I want to do, but I just don't have the money to really do it. To fund it. So one, I would like to know how I can, and I don't know, it may be a private certain consultation, right? But I definitely want to monetize the films I already have, and then also to be able to use maybe NFTs to fund to get the money for the other projects that I have in mind as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, because she comes, and I'll speak very briefly to it and let everybody else on the panel answer too, because this is something I think about a whole lot, because as a filmmaker myself too, and knowing a lot of great filmmakers here in town, that we've been kind of brewing and discussing this. And so when I go to OpenSea and I go to other things and search around to see who else is thinking about this, thankfully, we are all very early, but other people have already created a roadmap for this idea. And I have seen some really cool concepts. One of the greatest concepts I saw was they took all of their production stills for the film that they made as they made the film, and they made those collectible NFTs from throughout the film. There's different moments of the film that have been captured by a photographer while they were filming, and they're just a really beautiful piece of photography, and they each represent different moments of the film, right? And so then they created a custom contract and let people mint each moment of the film to raise money to distribute the film. And so they did that. Another version of it I've seen is doing more the Patreon side, where you come up with some sort of incentive package, like you. And this is what I've been thinking about. I want to make a 4-wall NFT. I want to create a virtual theater in the metaverse. I want to sell you a ticket to come to my movie. And Then I want to make a movie and have you come to it, but we're going to use the funding from creating I'll create a virtual theater myself, bootstrap that. And I'm an artist, so I'm going to build these chairs in the virtual world by hand. I'm going to handcraft the theater. And then that'll matter to people because it's real, I'll create that experience. And then they'll come in, they'll buy the front row seat, or I'll make them randomly. You won't know what seats you get, like a collection, because I can make that work in NFTs. And then when we push that, we show them all the roadmap. We're going to take 3 most likely female filmmakers, because that's what I kind of talked about, and be like, okay, we're going to raise $3 million. We're going to raise $3 million. And I'm not going to sit back and say, I'm going to raise $3 million, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it. We're going to make the NFT program. We're going to get the community behind it the way we want to. And then we're going to sell out that NFT. And we're going to sell out every seat in the theater that day. And then when it actually is time to show the actual movie, your NFT's properties might be the matinee and your seat number and the way that your seat looks. And the fact that as long as you hold that NFT, you have a seat in a real 4-wall theater where we're going to come together and watch it. You have a seat in a virtual theater where it's running 24/7 that only you can access. And then in the process of making the film, from the time we get our funding to the time we put the film out, you're going to have that access pass to get behind the scenes updates, to get interviews with the cast, to get additional content. And then as we're creating, more content of the film, like maybe those production stills throughout, maybe I'm airdropping those to the holders. I'm creating a sense of community around the filmmaking itself, so that everybody in a Patreon kind of sense has skin in the game in a way. So when the film comes out, I'm going to do somewhat of a traditional marketing. I am going to, because we'll use that film to do that in the budget. But where this is going to really take off is the fact that 1,000, 2,000 people have a seat in the theater waiting for them. And then when the theater comes out and it's time, we're going to do these crazy, awesome in real life / metaverse events. And everybody's going to watch the film at the same time. And then everyone is going to be incentivized to talk about it later on social. So those are all things that I've been thinking about. And that's where my journey has been on this the NFT filmmaking side of it. But if you do some more research too, and I'll send some more links out in the post, there are other people, and I talked about this yesterday, Chris Maloney made a short film. He auctioned off the copy, the single copy of the film on an auction, right? And I don't know why he did this, but it's just what he decided to do, right? It's an independent film, it's not a Hollywood blockbuster, but it's a film starring Chris Maloney, right? So him and the team got together, they auctioned off a single copy of the film. Whoever won that copy received the file of the final copy, and then they deleted it off their own hard drive. So now only the person who owns the NFT has a copy of the film. And that's what they decided to do. For me, I'm more of what I was talking about. I wanted to be super broad-based and community-oriented, and I want to use it for that. So, I hope that kind of opens it up. I'll let everybody else, chime in as well. But, I've been thinking about that a whole lot. And filmmaking, photography, music, those are the frontiers that within the next 6 months, you'll see some incredible forward-facing, customer-oriented products begin to emerge from the Web3 space.
Yeah, so we've been doing that with a film center called Fun Black Cat. It's a film in return series. And so we incorporated a lot of what Jeremiah has said with some other tactical kind of stuff to put out. So definitely.
Yeah, real quick. Like I was talking about earlier in March when I had the NFTs, one of the first projects that I saw that was making a big name in the space was an art project. Besides, it was a film by David Bianchi called "You Can't Hear Me." It's spoke about the film. It was him. I got the third guy, but no, it was him and Michael Dumont, and they did what they call spin-off. They created spoken word into a film, and they offered it as an NFT with some utility to that. And I just saw okay, now I can see NFT can do more than just be third party. It can do funding. It can just have widespread distribution of your film, where you can use NFTs to do your own distribution. You don't have to depend on Lionsgate or like that. So just even within the film part of it, there are opportunities. You have to list out what you're going to do to see the pathways to do it. But yeah, definitely the NFT film space is definitely.
Just to speak a little more generally, right, I think NFTs are a fantastic model for fundraising because you can kind of engage directly, with the fans, like raised directly from them, and then you can kind of tailor the experience that they get out of that and find these different ways to add value to them. Like Jeremiah threw out a bunch of good examples of how you might do that: private showing, behind the scenes access, pass, right? And it's great for that because it's very easy for you to know exactly who's holding the NFTs, right? And you don't need any kind of third-party service really to do that, right? You can just kind of look and see, all right, whose wallet has my NFT, and then you're able to kind of engage directly with them, right? Ask them what they want, or provide these other types of value adds, right? And so for that reason, I think it's a great fundraising model because you can really customize it, to provide the type of experience or access value add that you want in exchange for that early fundraising and reward your early fans.
For sure. Did you want to chime in?
Okay.
My question was about credentials for you. And then I also love what you said a little bit earlier about the art in 2021 was kind of that dinosaur term that you used. What was it?
Cambrian.
Yes, the Cambrian explosion. Right? Yeah. What needs to happen? What's the next thing that you think is going to lead to the next explosion? And then same question or potentially separate question, what needs to happen for universities to issue degrees as NFTs, offer letters from corporations to be NFTs from a credential standpoint, even the next government election to be based off of NFTs? What's the societal roadmap?
Well, I know somebody that's building some new software on the blockchain that literally outsources it. So what?
He sold his degree as an NFT.
Yeah. He outsourced. He had
Kind of not what they. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, talk about taking a shortcut, but that's what he did.
Yeah, so I don't think you should be able to sell credentials.
Well,
that kind of defeats the purpose.
Exactly.
And I speak to that too, owned NFTs. I think that's a big future soon. It's NFTs that we burn to your wallet.
Soul bound.
Yeah.
I like the term soul bound.
That's so
Soul bound NFT. That was used by
Soul NFTs. Well, that's called owned NFTs. But they're NFTs that, they burn to a wallet, they mint it to a wallet and cannot be transferred out. They have it's your passport, it's your birth certificate, it's your degree. It's in a certain wallet. That wallet can't be moved, it can't be taken away from you. It's probably non-custodial, but we haven't quite figured out how to make it so that you can give the whole all the way to someone else yet. But the idea would be you have, just like you have a social security number here in the United States, you have this big database of your information in the background that is technically Web 1, it's not even Web 2 necessarily, but it's secure for what, in ways that we Web 1 secure things.
Well, there is a smart contract standard where you can create non-transferable NFTs.
Oh yeah.
So back to the tech.
It's historic.
Back to the tech side of things. That's where all this is going to happen with credentials. Instead of using ERC 721, you're going to use this smart contract standard where you can buy the NFT and it's not transferable. So once it's in your wallet, you can't go on OpenSea and sell the birth certificate because it's a non-transferable NFT.
And how far away from adoption if you
the honest answer is I don't know. I think I can tell you it's already happening, and there are people experimenting with issuing credentials as NFTs. And the ideal way to do it is to make them soul bound, so that the person that's credential is the same person that earned the credential, which makes sense, right? I think there are a few things that need to happen. We need some sort of regulatory framework, honestly, to where the credentials can be recognized as they need to be. So maybe that doesn't need to be at a federal level. Maybe it's just the American Psychological Association, decides that they will recognize these credentials as NFTs or what have you. So there's kind of, I think, we need more network effect to really make it so that these organizations really see the value, because you need two things, right? It's kind of a chicken and egg problem, right? It's kind of how it works with network effect. Is if there's no one that's going to recognize the credential, then why would you issue it? And then if no one's issuing it, right, why are you going to do the work? Why are you going to try to recognize it, right? So we just need kind of more network effect, more people that know what NFTs are and like how to use them and how to that they're legitimate, right? And so as kind of education increases and we start to educate our government more about it, then I think we'll start to see those types of standards emerge, and then that'll really pave the way to getting like a bunch of legacy type of credentials as NFTs. But but it will, in the meantime, though, it'll keep happening kind of in the private world, and all of these, a lot of things about like POAPs or this other type of sites. It's a type of credential, right? It shows I was here. I went to this event. Maybe you went to this conference, right? You get a POAP, and you can see what was covered in the conference. So that on its own is kind of like a little bit of a credential, right? So slowly, and in different kind of ways, it's happening. But I think we need more broad kind of education and better, user interfaces and kind of points of interaction, right? Which will come. So I don't know.
And by the way, I will be sending an email out asking for your ETH address either tonight or tomorrow, and you will be getting a POAP actually, in addition to the membership NFT. So you'll be receiving an NFT, which is the membership NFT, which grants you lifetime access to all of our events as long as you hold the NFT. That is the utility that we put behind it so far. But separately, you will receive your first, most likely, a lot of your first POAPs, which is a slightly different way of doing NFTs. I'll basically send you to a link, and you'll put your own ETH address into the link, and you'll mint this NFT yourself, and it'll be a round badge-looking NFT that has the NFT ATL information on it, and I might put a little more artistic flair into it that way too. And then you'll have that POAP, which is a proof of attendance protocol, is what that means. That proof of attendance NFT will be sitting in a specific, like a special wallet that you own where all your POAPs live. And that's on the XDAI chain. It's a little different. So just be looking out for that email tomorrow night. We'll do it tomorrow to make sure that everybody's time to, because I still get the voting manager will be later in the week. But I will ask for all your ETH addresses. If you haven't made an ETH address yet, then you'll also get information inside of the email that'll tell you how to make a MetaMask or to make a wallet. Since we have talked about that, but I'll be going over it over again. So, Joe?
Yeah, my name's Rochelle.
Hi, Joe.
So question, I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts on the barrier of entry for most users that are still in the Web3 versus Web2 versus Web3. Like as filmmakers, I'm sure you can appreciate this. It is really hard raising money, even just with a credit card. So if we're adding another barrier of entry with a MetaMask, like how, and then, my communities are mainly in Instagram and YouTube, and then the NFT universe is mainly Twitter and Discord. So how, other than starting from step one to build a new community with a higher barrier of entry, can you guys talk to that a bit?
So I'm just trying to kind of processing what you said. So yeah, when it comes to this idea of, entering the Web3 space and kind of like unleashing yourself in there, it is very intimidating. I was intimidated by it, and my background is in computer science. It's intimidating. I would say from the perspective of, you already having a community on your YouTube and your Instagram and things like that, not everybody that follows you is going to be interested. And you kind of have to accept the reality that, like, you are completely in a niche space right now. We are very early on talking like this. It seems like it's a buzzword, but it's really not. And that's why I think spaces like this are important, because when the mainstream starts getting a hold of it, like the government and things like that, we're not going to just let anything fly, right? We know what we're talking about, right? But when it comes to how to, I would say, like the barrier of entry and how to enter, it is intimidating, but you will have to allow yourself to be like, yeah, I may only have 5 people right now that are interested in buying my work or visiting my space, and whether it's virtual or it's an activation that you have. A lot of cool things I see. I did to kind of get myself started is I followed other artists who are doing it first, right? So, and we could talk about it more, but there's certain artists that I actually just watch their footsteps because they are already kind of entering the space and they're purely physical artists, and that's a good place to start, just watching what they're doing. the Discord chats and things like that, it can, even using Discord itself can be confusing, so it's allowing yourself that grace and that space to just be like, okay, I am starting off, but I would say the number one thing is finding an artist that's already doing it. And that's number one. Number two, to kind of like, raising, like, I guess this kind of goes back into like this concept of like raising funding for it. Instagram ads is a really good place. Like, I'm going to tell you guys that right now. If you're trying to find a community of people, I was able to find some really dope virtual artists who create like how you said you crashed that metaverse party and stuff like that, like through Instagram ads. The gal that I first minted my NFT with through Instagram ads. Run Instagram ads to find your people, because at the end of the day, your immediate followers may not understand and things like that. And once you start having, maybe 5 people follow you because they see that you are, this person is in the physical world and they want to enter the space, I'm going to follow them because I'm going to place my bets on them, So I would say that is a good place to start, just grassroots running these mini little boosting your post ads to find hashtag NFT spaces. That's a good way to kind of brush into me and really like, looking at an artist and just being like, let me join their Discord. That's how I started. I joined a lot of Discord chats, just like, all right, I see how they're doing it, So that's one thing I would say.
Just real quick, too, I would say that, lost it.
Yeah, like you said, if you just have 5 people that engage with you, that's better than, these folks that have 50 million followers, but only 5 of them will actually engage with you, 5 of them. So don't discount them, and go, communicate, talk with other people, go see what other folks are doing. It's all about, OPP, other people's power.
What else was I saying?
Yeah, so don't, and again, don't get so locked into, I gotta be in that space in order to get where I'm going to go, because that will happen once you make whatever you're currently doing. Don't dismiss that. Don't throw that dream out, with the bathwater. Stick to that. Money's hard to find. I don't care where you are. Even if you happen to be fortunate enough, like this young woman here, who's, doing a good thing, making stuff happen for herself or other folks. It's not for everybody. Everybody's just not gonna make money. So stick to your game plan and figure out how to make your shit work.
So I was gonna say, just piggybacking off of her, like what happened in December, that's a pretty big deal. It's a huge deal, honestly, because I've been banging my head against the wall trying to run Facebook and Twitter and Instagram ads, because I wanted to move I wanted to do a traditional marketing, like paid ad firm to find people for my project. And so I started banging against the wall in October and in November, because Facebook would just not approve those ads. They just would not run crypto ads. Anything that was related to crypto, NFTs, anything like that, they would just reject those ads. And Twitter was even worse. The thing that changed in December is Facebook did an about face, and they started allowing crypto and NFT ads. So up until the end of December, you could not run traditional crypto or NFT ads. I just wanted to run ads that said swipe up and go to my minting site, right? You could not run those. And I worked with a professional marketing organization who told me straight up, look, you're paying us a lot of money and we cannot run the ads you're asking us to run. We'll get our own stuff shut down. And then I'm sitting here forwarding them emails like 2 days later, like, look, Facebook just said we can't run these ads, and they still refuse, and I had to fire that agency because they refused to help me with it. And so just to know that things move very fast in this space. And so I've got a professional marketing agency with, lots of clients doing great things every day with other things that just had no idea. And it's like, are you not a professional marketer? Can you not Google the same thing I can Google? Seriously.
But
just know that ads are available now. Twitter ads are crazy, but Instagram ads, absolutely.
Yeah, Google is your friend. But you still got people out there in this selling
Garbage.
Yeah, so they just don't know, and they prey upon people that don't know. So they tell you, oh, you can't do this, you can do this, charge you all kinds of crap. So, but yeah.
I think that was great advice, because you're right about the barrier to entry. But what I will say though is once you're in the community, the NFT community is just an incredible community, and a lot of them have money, right? From being in crypto. So I think it's worth it. And I also like to say, the barrier to entry thing. I always like to say it's like riding a bike. So it seems very intimidating at first, setting up the MetaMask, and you might, fall on your knee and lose all your money first time, right? But once you kind of get it, it's really quite, like, it's not that tough, right? It's really, like, once you get familiar with, how to make a transaction, this is what it kind of looks like, and I know not to enter in my seed phrase anywhere, no matter what, then, it's kind of smooth sailing.
You get a chance to see the movie Minted, which was funded by NFTs. And but it's all about NFTs and artists in the NFT space. But it should spark some ideas of how to get funding.
Hey everyone, my name is Kumar. I run a Discord community. It's called Informative Fathers. What we do is we help onboard people with information that helps people with find information about Web3, NFTs, DeFi, and how do you guys stay abreast of what's happening? Because like you just said, you miss out on NFT Twitter for one day. It's like you missed 20 years.
Let me jump, because I actually do that same thing and run a Discord group too, trying to just educate and onboard people. So we should talk after this. But I mean, I stay. I do my best. I'm like full time, so I just do this stuff all day. I live in Discord, and so for me, I don't know if this would be helpful for you, but for me personally, I mean, I have lots of kind of groups that I'm just in, smaller groups of, colleagues from the industry and other sorts of stuff. And so that's a great way, for me, because they're all, also kind of degen and they're all always looking at stuff. And then the second thing, is Twitter. So, Twitter is probably my number one source of information. Maybe in general, but for crypto, for sure. So,
I keep abreast by doing and talking to other people and see what they're doing. And I get a lot of, I feed off people's energy and creativity. And then I read a lot. So, I mean, I have 50 million newsletters, and then I'm always talking. I'm sitting on a zillion panels. The time, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I just did it. So I think just by, I get some information. Tell me something I don't know. I just don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the same. As far as online stuff, like definitely like Discord, because like almost every day I have to unlist certain Discord channels because I'm past the limit. But especially, as a dev, talking to devs or, looking for work, people who want to do NFT stuff. Like Discord, Twitter is definitely big in the NFT community. And a lot of these audio apps, people are talking about NFTs. So like fanbase like Clubhouse and others. And I think that's probably where you need to go. I think more NFT people are going native to Discord for some reason. And I had it before. I had Discord before I got an NFT. Probably didn't use it until I got NFT stuff, and now I probably use it way too much. But it is what it is.
You gotta watch some of these people. There's a lot of people out there. They're scamming. Yeah, they're duping the kids out here. So
Never respond to Discord DMs.
Don't even open your Discord. Do close it so they can't send them to you. That's the only real way.
Well, actually, what I do is I just make it, or actually, no, that doesn't even work. I used to make it so like you had to be in the same server as me, but that doesn't work. So I actually have turned them off just for friends. So if someone tried to DM me, they have to like add as a friend. That works.
Yeah, or like, you see people on YouTube, you see them everywhere talking about, and talking with, my great grandmother said, talking what you don't know. And it's just pitiful. And sometimes I comment, and people, comment to me, how you hating on these people. I'm not, you're out here telling this information, fake news. No. So.
Yeah. One real quick thing I was going to say. There's this, maybe it's a secret that just maybe most people aren't aware of, but Twitter has a newsletter tool. It's called Review. And if you go and follow certain NFT community members, they put out a weekly newsletter and sometimes even more. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's an account on Twitter called Cosmo de Medici, and that is actually Snoop Dogg. And so that's his NFT persona. He didn't dox himself till the middle of last year because he didn't want people to judge him based on his bias and self on Snoop Dogg. He wanted to just be in the community, like really in the community. Like, dude, I GM'd him before, he's GM'd me before. I didn't even know it was him for 3 months. I went back on Twitter, like, what? And so if he started putting out a thing called the Medici Minutes, which is he's dropping his own alpha, I would say it's kind of shilly personally. He thinks interesting. But that review tool, I've seen several people launch NFT information platforms based off their newsletter tool inside of Twitter. And there's a few other ones. There's NFT news sources. There's actually an NFT news organization called Red Lion News that puts out an NFT news paper every month as an NFT that you buy. And then you buy it, you get your bonuses of the artists that were involved with, like Abrams stuff, pretty cool stuff. But they're super deep in the mix. So those are some of the things that I've noticed that people that I follow that are really deep in the tech side of this, or people that I'm friends with on LinkedIn that are in the Twitter NFT space, they start making these like review by Twitter newsletters, and they're so deep in the space they know what they're talking about. Man, there's a few other crypto websites that are NFT related. The writers, are just churning out whatever we're talking about inside of NFT Twitter all the time, so that you'll learn that OpenSea, their contract had an issue here. You learn that this project was a rug here. Things that people are happy or sad about, and just talking about like crazy in the industry. Somebody will write that up because we care. People inside the industry want to read about that. And then that's just one thing that I noticed that might be something that people aren't utilizing as much.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Newsletters, I signed up for one of the ones I really like. I use Medium, and so I follow writers that talk about that. So I always get it, on my email. It's like $3 a month or something like that. And so I just always get it. So I think for people who feel like it's such a high barrier of entry, and it's like it can be very intimidating. If certain things like maybe buying the NFT newsletter might be even that, then Medium is just those type of news agencies where it's like there's writers that just like you said, like they're just kind of churning out this information. And I follow YouTubers that talk about it all the time, that break it down and like with samples. I like things. But that's
a great bug. Like if you're really trying to learn the industry, Ethereum in particular.
What's it? Thankless. Okay, cool. Yeah. So exactly. So yeah, that's how I kind of go about it. Yeah.
Just maybe all of that. That just reminded me that another thing that's big in the NFT space and blockchain is resale. So you mentioned Medium. A lot of people are using Mirror.sye, which is supposed to be the centralized version of Medium where people can write articles and create NFTs out of their own articles. So this is
Yes, actually, 2 questions.
So, hey, right before you answer this, I just want to put out there, we just spent 12,000 Bitcoin, and there's a bunch of pizzas coming, so there's going to be pizzas coming here. We didn't really spend Bitcoin for it, but there's pizza coming here shortly. As soon as we wrap up this portion of it, we'll have pizza in the lobby versus here. We'll be all over the place, and I will still go back after we finish and get all the pizza stuff, and I'm going to run, as soon as we settle a little bit, do my NFT archaeology pitch and show that part. It's very short. It's just about the history of NFTs. Very briefly, because I want to touch on which NFTs that are historic that you can still go and collect today that are still floating around. It's kind of like the landscape of historical NFTs. It'll be very short, but I want to make sure to get that in there because it is an important part of, especially if you're a collector and collecting is a really important part to you. Finding and acquiring historic NFTs is just an amazing part of it. And it's why I call myself an NFT archaeologist, because I sit all night, all the time on Etherscan and other places and doing research, finding these projects, many of which are not rugs, but they just died because of no activity. People just weren't interested in them at the time, maybe because of crypto crash or whatever. But I'll show you ways to find those.
My name is Troy, and I'm really into visual art. I have no experience with mask or NFTs, but I just wanted to ask for y'all suggestions just on how to get into that digital world without any prior experience with coding or digital art. I just don't know how to get that visual art, my paintings and things like that, into the digital world. That was my first question.
What type of art do you make?
Like tapestries, I'll paint on tapestries or canvas paintings. And usually it's multimedia, so it has some kind of texture or something to it. And just very interested in this world and wanting to actually put quality art in it. So I just don't know how to get to that point. I'm just right now trying to learn about
I'd
it.
be totally interested in seeing your stuff. As in both spaces, and then, thinking about some of the folks that I work with, designers or, house that would be interested in what you have. You could work in so many different spaces. Again, no village stuff. So after we should talk.
Yes.
Certainly.
Quite a bit. I think, as far as, where you start, my sister is a painter. So I make digital art, so my stuff is already digitally online, right? So, it's a little bit different. But for her, one thing we've talked about, and just for you as a visual artist yourself, there's methods you can take, for example, right? Going to your canvas, you can actually 3D scan your canvas and upload it, right? Doesn't take any code. There's actually a very easy app that will show you the basics of doing that. But that's a way to start. Like, I don't want to start naming all the apps because if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, it will just be confusing. But that's one way. You don't need any coding to get into this space at all. You can be a creative mind. There's a lot of people that just want to do the coding part, but you don't even need coding to make your first NFT. So as far as like that, I think as an artist wanting to get into that space, you have to begin to think of your work as a broader than just, the NFTs you see people selling. Like, your tapestries can be, you can link up, get on Fiverr, find a 3D developer, designer. They can create a wearable of your tapestry that can be worn in places like Decentraland and these other worlds that are being crafted. So you can think about your work in a way where you don't have to be the coder. So I would say, really, where do you start? I would say website. No, website. First place you want to start building that world, that digital space, and there's different types of aspects that you can start to integrate into your website, like a virtual gallery. It's simple. You want to create a website. You don't know how to code. There's so many drag and droppable spaces. Wix.com. This is my favorite, actually. Wix.com is my favorite. I'm an icon over here. I'm literally I have that. I've done a lot of work there. So Wix.com is one place that you can build some really cool things without knowing how to code at all. Get your website. The next thing is, if you want to start having virtual activations through your website, there's plugins you can literally just add that will allow you to explore your gallery space. Then let's say you wanted to start minting it. So for example, you need your piece itself, something that Jeremiah talked about earlier was that, when they were doing the canvas seeds, they tagged these seeds with barcodes. So, as a painter, your work can actually be tagged as an NFT in the digital world, but the person who buys your work can actually own the piece and own the NFT at the same time. So I'm just diving into that space with a lot of artists who are not digital artists, because that world is really for y'all too. It's not just for people who make 3D art. So yes, 3D scanning, there's a lot of apps. Create a website and start building your world. And then I would say YouTube University. You don't need to go to get into this world. You can partner up with specialists, people who are great at it, that just want to be a part of it because you're creating yourself. Exactly.
Just a quick note too, but I'll let them answer too. When we send your email out later, just on the most basic level, I'll just give you a tutorial about how to mint on OpenSea with no help, literally no code. Only thing that you need is your art, the name of the art, the description of the art, and that is all. You might, depending on how you do it, have to pay gas to mint your collection on OpenSea. But there are other platforms like Mintable. The very first time I ever minted, just a one-off was on Mintable. I didn't use any custom contracts. The only thing I needed was my piece of art, the name of the art, the description, and then I put traits in there because you can program that type of stuff, like the colors or whatever. But you don't have to do that. The name, the description, and the piece of art. About 5 minutes later, you'll have the NFT ready to sell. And if the only first process was just get my NFTs up and then building up your presence, Yeah, maybe that. And think of it like, it's your brand and it's your, think of your normal cycle of creating your art. And then I would say this, I have a phrase that I say that's like my number one phrase. It's going to be on my tombstone. You can't just make the best thing in the world. You have to tell everybody about it. And that's one step. That's not two steps. You have to make it and tell everybody about it. If that's the goal, to spread it around and have people know about it and potentially collect it. I make plenty of art that I've never shown anybody. I never will. I take photos all the time of cool little plants that I see in the house. But if I want other people to see my art and I want to share it, you can't just make the best thing in the world and leave it in the basement with all your guitars, all your racks, and your amazing song you made. That's because it comes from music. My original phrase is, you can't make the world, you have to tell everybody about it. You can't just leave it laying. So that's one step. You make the art and tell everybody about it. But maybe it's make art, mint it. I got a couple of collections that I've never set for sale yet. And I might wait a lot longer before I do, because I haven't built up a little community that would want them, But now that I go to these in real life places, I will be telling people all about my art and finding those people that will be interested in it. And then whether they're an in-person, they're like they want a physical piece of your stuff, of your tapestry, or whether they're more interested in the NFT side of it, you got a conversation started to start building that base, group of people that are interested in your art. And so think of it in the traditional way. Do whatever you would normally do to try to get someone to know about your art, whether it's going to events, whether it's setting up a booth, all those things. But the Web3 version of that is going online to do it, going to virtual events, telling people, joining communities like Discord, and what we're talking about. Yeah, if you get into the NFT community, you'll get sucked into amazing conversations, tiny little amazing conversations with very influential people who really want to push you up. And if they like your stuff, you'll turn around and they'll be like, "Man, you talked about my stuff all day yesterday. I never asked you to do that. You never even purchased my art. You just like the fact that I'm on my journey and you want to help me on my journey." And that's one of the best, most welcoming things is they're not necessarily always going to collect your art, but the value that they're showing you by sharing and talking to people about you could be just as useful and lucrative. And once they actually have your art, then they're with you forever on the blockchain. There's a certain thing that. So just getting on the most basic started, minting will give you as much information as possible to get you started on that absolute basic level. And then, like she was talking about, there's a lot of great things to go ahead of that. And then yesterday we did have Ashley France here, who gave an incredible conversation and presentation about how to market. And she's a marketer herself. And you could bring someone like her on board to do those things that you don't have to do as an artist. If you heard Fabian talking, he doesn't want to learn how to code. He does not want to do the marketing stuff. He wants to be the artist. And so he puts his focus there, and that's what he does. And he builds a great team around him to take care of the other stuff. His right-hand man, maybe an artist. I haven't asked him if he's an artist or not. But his focus isn't on making more art. His focus is on getting Fabian's art into the hands of collectors. And he loves it. He's passionate about it. He's passionate about the NFT community. He's passionate about showing people artists off. Maybe you should specifically talk to him, these types of things, But once you get into this community fully, you'll realize this is about half of the people in Atlanta that are into this. The other half were here yesterday. And then so you got such a close-knit community of people from completely disparate angles of things. You don't have to just find a bunch of other artists. Because I'll tell you, when I was doing amateur punk shows and stuff, right? I would do shows sometime where the only people in the audience were the other band members and their significant others, right? No fans, just other artists, right? And I DJ'd a ton of rap showcases. Rap showcases, a lot of times, it's just the other artists and their 2 or 3 people. Very few people are like, I want to go see a show tonight. I think I want to go see a local rap showcase and see if I find somebody I like. It just didn't tend to be a large group of those people. It's just a bunch of other artists. So if you end up in an echo chamber of just, hey, I've got art, you want to buy it? Well, hey, I've got art, you want to buy it? And it's just a group of people all asking the same thing, and no marketer, no person who loves to evangelize amazing artists, no tech people, no community, members. Then y'all all are going to have a great idea and not be able to move it forward. Same thing as if it was just a bunch of tech people and no artists. That's what happens in the NFT community all the time. You've got a person who knows Solidity back and forth that has to go on Fiverr. Why are they going on Fiverr and hire an artist when you're here? Because they can't find you. They haven't found you. They don't know you. But if they did know you, they would have done it differently.
Now we know Troy.
Correct. And now we all know each other.
Well, so I'm going to disagree with you there, Jeremiah.
Yeah, please.
There's a lot, just about the community aspect. There's a lot of people, because I run meetup groups, and so we got a lot of people at those. So You're not alone. There's a big community here in Atlanta that's growing. And stuff like this, helps. Relatively. Right. So all I was going to say is, come network. Come network with us at 3 Taverns this Thursday.
Yeah, so let me digress with that too. The biggest event I've been to was the one first time I went to his. I mean, I walked up there and I was like, I can't believe this many people are even doing this in Atlanta. I had no idea. And that was my first meeting there, but he's been running this for over a year. And so,
yeah, and when we started, our first meetup was actually here in Ponce. We had to be like 3 people. Yeah. And now we regularly get 30 plus. So yeah, it's great. And we're growing all the time. And we didn't even, start off with really a focus on NFTs, because when I started last year, NFTs was like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. And now obviously it's all anyone wants to talk about. So yeah, all it is to say, come by and meet other like-minded people and network.
But I want to say, don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed, because I was overwhelmed. Just, you think everybody's talking about it. It's like, oh God, because if they're like you were saying, there's certain steps you also want to take as an artist outside of NFTs to like solidify yourself and build that world and still have a community. If NFTs weren't even a thing, of course they could be a thing. That's not inevitable at this point, but it can be overwhelming. So like, as you learn the information, I'm saying this to you because that's what I had to learn to do, like pacing yourself, because your interest is going to attract you to the space anyways. You're going to be, you're probably going to have your first NFT in the next few months, but because it just happens. The community it just happens, like meeting Jeremiah, all this type of stuff, so don't overwhelm yourself and just pace yourself. Make sure your website, number one, having that or something that is like on the web, because when you are applying for grants for like galleries and things like that, you need a website. You need something that says, "Hey, I'm legit." And even if you haven't worked with this gallery and that gallery, your web space outside of your Instagram, like I really emphasize that your web space in the world you build in that space showcases to other people, your collectors, the galleries, the grants, all that type of stuff, that this person is a worthy investment in you. So that's just something just wanted to say as well.
Thank you. And I just have my second question. I just want to know if you guys have any thoughts or things on the negative effects of NFTs when it comes to climate and the greenhouse gas emissions, and just futuristic movement as everyone's trying to create more NFTs. Just everyone's laughing.
Yeah, I'm gonna say maybe this is controversial, but I think it's all fun. The Ethereum, you have to understand how Ethereum actually works, right? The network is going to keep going, whether you buy that NFT or not, right? So the people contributing energy to mine Ethereum is a function of really one thing, which is, well, 2 things: Ethereum price and their cost of energy, right? So as long as ETH is, whatever price it is, there are going to be people that contribute energy to mine the blockchain, and that, does contribute to some environmental impact. The good news is, ETH2 soon TM, hopefully, right? And then we will, right? And then we will kind of be rid of this problem mostly. Ethereum 2.0, which, by the way, is supposed to be in June, of this year, will result in a 99.98% reduction in the energy usage of Ethereum, right? So once we get there, that'll be great, and we can kind of leave this conversation behind. But you as an artist, you as someone participating in NFTs, you are not marginally contributing to the environmental impact. Okay, the only thing that does that is the price of Ethereum, and the way that this works, right? The way the Web3 works, we don't believe in kind of policing people's choices in that way, right? So if you want to mine Ethereum and you want to spend, you think that's a good use of energy. Right? We also have a policy that, we don't police energy usage. I might not think that, leaving, Christmas lights plugged in, for 4 months out of the year is a good use of energy, right? But I'm not about to go police people about that, right? So that's kind of more philosophical, but from a technical perspective, right, you are not contributing marginally to the energy usage of the network, and that's not really something you can control. But the Ethereum community, I was at Denver a couple weeks ago, right? And the community is really quite passionate about these environmental issues, and we're working on it.
Yeah, I would say too that I kind of agree. It's a bit of that. They over exaggerate a lot. That being said, Ethereum is one of many blockchain protocols that are in the NFT space, and there are others that claim to be more eco-friendly. So, like saying, go do your research as far as that. You can look at Ethereum, you can look at some of these other protocols to mint up. And, they'll have on their website, how they maybe more eco-friendly than Ethereum, what have you. And you kind of make a decision from there. But if you look at the protocol, we still think Ethereum is the best place to mint on. Don't be scared of it, as he said. But there are options if you want to look at options. If that's one of, what the course going to stand for is doing this in a way that's eco-friendly.
I mean, I definitely understand like what you said. I really resonate with that. And I'm happy you said what you said because I wasn't aware of that. Because I definitely drank the Kool-Aid, especially when those movies and all these things started coming out, all these documentaries. And so for me, my entry was, this is a kind of a lot of energy that you can consume. But I mean, I'm also like, I also have a gaming computer and I run a lot of stuff in my house. You know what I'm saying? So, that's how I was like, it is, but it isn't. So I'm really happy you said that because I am one of those people that is counting down the clock to June for ETH2. But I'm happy to know that like it doesn't mean that if you're participating per se, you are contributing because they're running in mind and they're doing it regardless. Exactly. So that's interesting. But then does that mean that because they're doing it regardless that you should have a piece of that pie? Or like on just wondering, like, does that mean that we should just be a part of it or should we wait? Like what do you think?
That's your decision to make. It's Michael said, right, there are other options, right? And I think that's a good point. These other networks that really aren't using that much energy, mostly because they just don't have as many users. It's if you want the maximum network effect, that's on Ethereum. Kind of the flip side of that coin, right, is that it takes a lot to run a network, but I don't really think about it. I like to look at all the things Ethereum is actually doing to help with the problem. There are multiple projects, which we could do. This is not kind of gets off the topic of NFTs, but some of them did use NFTs fundraise. But there are many projects that are using Ethereum to attack problems around coordination, to tackle climate change, which I think is kind of a central problem, right? In very interesting ways, right? And they're using Ethereum technology and things going on in the ecosystem and DeFi and lots of cool stuff, right, to actually attack this problem, right, in a way that governments haven't been able to. So I get really excited about that. I think, personally, I think the Ethereum ecosystem is, and honestly, the crypto ecosystem is going to do more to help solve these problems than people realize, and may actually be the thing that helps us solve these problems at the end of the day. So, we use energy for everything. It's kind of your own moral decision on what is a good use of energy versus what's not. I don't think, Christmas lights is good. On the other hand, I use Ethereum a lot, but like I mentioned, miners going to mine, as long as it's profitable. So that's the way that works. And, whether or not, you may, even if we all stop making NFT transactions, all that's going to happen is maybe like the network fees will go down, but it's not going to, insofar as it doesn't change the price of ETH, miners are going to have the same incentive to mine, right? And so
that's definitely correct. Like you're saying with the miners, these miners aren't sitting here thinking, man, I want to go find the best NFT project to jump into, or I want to see which cryptocurrency is going to go up the fastest. They just see that if the cost of energy is $57, let's say, and the price of ETH is $2,800, and they make a profit by running their system, it's going to continue to occur. And something that is definitely occurring now, and this might marginally help things in the short term, is the state of Texas has decided to be absolutely friendly to crypto miners because so many miners are having to move from China and so many other places that aren't allowing crypto mining anymore. And in Texas, energy is regulated individually by companies in individual places. Whereas here, you pay Georgia Power and you get power, right? When you're in Texas at your house, you have about 5 different power companies to decide, and you pick the one with the lowest rate, right? And that's why when that big storm happened, those people were using a bouncing rate that was dependent on how much usage they had. And when everything fried and the big snowstorm came in, everybody's energy level went to like times 100. So the price changed from being like 1 cent to being $1.50 per whatever. And so that wrecked so many people, and they fixed whatever. But in Texas, they're able to regulate the price of energy, and they're being absolutely super friendly on the prices of that stuff, And then the other side that I definitely wanted to mention is, there's a lot of NFTs being minted, Ethereum's being mined, other cryptocurrencies being mined. There is an environmental toll that we are experiencing. But is that toll even close to the amount of energy it takes to print every one of our IG stories every day? Those are a lot of IG stories, and those cost energy. And those have to be stored somewhere. And if they're a video, that's a big file. And those have to be stored somewhere forever, not on a blockchain. And that server somewhere is not a USB, it's not an SD card. It is a spinning server that has to be activated at all times so that you can look at your IG story in your archive later. That amount of energy far exceeds anything we're talking about. There's 300,000 people in the NFT space, maybe 3 million plus, that are, actively floating around in crypto, and then maybe 10 million that are playing with it. And was it maybe 20 something million that are
20 million that are doing what?
How many people are you think are holding crypto just in general, actively holding it, not just in a wallet somewhere? It's a fair
I'm not sure.
It's a lot. It's a fair
There's something around that. It might be higher.
It may be 100 million, anything like that. But that 100 million people is nothing to what just happened on Instagram today. So if we want to solve a problem, let's solve the energy problems, or let's stop using Instagram. Because I think this is a very small thing to be worried about. And in all reality, FUD, fear and loathing and doubt, is a very common term over in our world. If you don't like something, you create FUD because you're trying to get people to stop liking it. So people who don't like NFTs are trying to find some way to keep the world the way it is. And so they're flooding NFTs using this environmental thing, right? Not to say that it is not having a tremendous impact on the environment, but so it's, yeah, exactly, it's political. Every time you flip a light switch on, you're having an effect on it. So you got to think about your own carbon footprint. I know a lot of NFT projects that do carbon offsets if they're on Ethereum, so that they specifically are registered that they have fixed their problem. They've at least went carbon neutral based on planting a bunch of trees or some kind of thing like that. And then other secondary chains, like we talked about, they don't use gas. They don't have mining. Like Shiba Inu, for example, the entire amount of Shiba Inu that will ever exist was minted on day one. There will only be less. Shiba Inu will never be mined, can't be mined. So the problem we have with mining Ethereum is the same problem on Shiba because we can't mine Shiba. So, things are changing quite a bit, One more thing I'll say right before I take this other question here is... Oh, no. Okay. We are going to have pizza very shortly after this, and when we get the pizza in, you can chill, you can eat pizza, and I am going to still do my NFT archaeology panel. We'll be hanging out still here. You can come go as you please there as we start the meetup group side.
Yeah, so I do my own NFTs, and I have yet to put out my whole project because I kind of had this, you say, partly concern and also kind of seeing the problems of future NFT because, when people get into new things, they don't really see the initial problems at first until it happens later. So my question is, how do you solve the problem of ownership of NFT on blockchain, which is ownership of the actual photos via copyright? And is that seen as importance?
I will, in my experience of it, and I'll let you guys talk about some of the technical aspects of it too. But me as an artist, that's a conversation that I have a lot and talk to people a lot about. So in the NFT space, this is going to sound weird, but I would encourage y'all to find an NFT you really like a photo one, like an avatar or a piece of art or something like that. Right click on it, save it to your phone. And now you have that in it. You have the art. You can enjoy it. You can pull it up. You can make it to screensaver on your phone. That's all fine and dandy. But if you want to support the artist and the project and things, you got to take a different step. You got to buy her art, And if you were just going to download it, because you like it and enjoy it, there's zero things that the internet and computers can do to stop you from doing that. And so when it comes to monetizing it, that's a different thing. If I try to sell Karo's painting or whatever, well, she has a verifiable way to prove that I don't own that painting, Now, what's happening on OpenSea is people just download a bunch of the stuff and they'll just re-upload the same one and try to trick people into buying a fake one, right? But if you have enough education in the NFT space, it's crazy obvious that it's fake. You know, why is this board an entire 10,000 piece collection minted on Polygon today? Because it's not real.
So you would say building, having a good project, a good community over the copywriting aspect more than
Well, just to clarify, owning an NFT does not give you the copyright.
Correct.
Unless they specifically say in the owning of the NFT that we're giving you those rights. So, like with Bored Ape, you have the rights to reproduce whatever NFT you own of Bored Ape that is, and if you have the logo in the NFT you own, you have on the Bored Apes, and you have logo, you can use that too. Now, that's what Bored Apes did, and that actually helped the project. But if you were to create an NFT and she were to buy it, she would own the NFT. The copyright would still be yours, unless you decide to give NFT owners that specific right. And some people do that for various reasons. But like, copyright is still copyright. I guess that's the easy way to say it, regardless of whether you offer an NFT or not. So if you created it, you own the copyright. Period.
And that is a good point. Sorry, and if I was going the wrong direction, I think that he answered your question a little closer.
You both did, really. It's just something that no one talks about. I just realized, I think, with NFT projects, basically they treat that as like their own government business now. So it doesn't matter whether or not you copyright it through the government or you copyright it through the blockchain. As long as it's on the blockchain and you have the product there.
Yeah, so go back to
That's
that.
a good point.
Copyright is copyright.
Right.
Blockchain is not copyright.
Right.
So if you that's what people are thinking about with music. Like, okay, if I create this song and put it on the blockchain, then I don't have to worry about copyright. That is not the case at all. At least not yet.
Yeah, exactly.
At least not yet. Right, because they'd be going, like he said, like legacy credentials, right? Be able to try to do copyright on the blockchain. That's not happening now. Right now, again, copyright is copyright. So if you create something, you own the copyright. You can give it as an NFT. NFT owner owns the NFT. Copyright still belongs to you.
Right, and keep in mind too, the second you create a piece of art, you have a copyright to it. You do not have to register anything with the government. The reason people register things with the government and create copyrights is so that they can fight in court about it. If you had to prove that the NFT was yours, then you need that copyright. Otherwise, you can look this up. This is exactly true. The second that you create a piece of art, you hold a U.S. copyright of legal standard. But on the other side of that, you need to get your real copyright if you're going to get a trademark. Trademarks and copyrights go well together, because you have to base things on each other, So that copyright is super important. Like he's talking about, legal copyright is very important, especially if you're thinking about a fight about it. If you're an independent artist, you have a certain amount of copyright protection just by creating it and being your intellectual property. But if you got to fight about it in court, you don't have that providence. Providence is what in the old, in the pre-web world, the copyright is for. That providence we all feel like we'll stand up in court if we are the ones to make the NFT first. And maybe we're right, but it hasn't been tested yet. But we're all going to discover that. And then the last thing I was going to say is, a lot of projects do different things. For apes, if you own the particular ape, you get the IP rights to that ape. You can do whatever you want with it. You make a cartoon out of it, anything. Hash masks is the same idea. But photography NFTs, I bought a Kurt Cobain NFT last year from Jesse Foreman. He was they did the last photo shoot with the band. And so he did his as an NFT last year. He didn't grant me anything. The only thing I have is an NFT. He can even just delete the art if he wants. The only thing I get is the NFT, and it specifically is stated in the terms and conditions that's all I am getting is an NFT. The photo attached to it isn't even, I don't even get that technically. It's attached to it, but I have no rights of any kind to that. And so there's people on both sides of that, and then there's the third way that I've seen people do, which is CCO, copyright free. They'll make the art, and when they put it out, they release the copyright into public domain immediately, and they don't have rights to it even. No one has rights to the art, and they did that intentionally. So that happens too. So there's at least 3 different ways you could go with that, including holding all your rights, and the only thing I'm going to use is an NFT and no promises of anything.
Gotcha.
Wait, can you reiterate that part about the art is separate from the NFT?
Yeah, that's something, and I heard that earlier too. Just remember this, an NFT is not art. It's not music. It's not a video. It is just a certificate of authenticity on the blockchain that proves on a date and a time that you did a certain thing. And then if it's the more complicated you get with the coding, and that's why people love Ethereum because of smart contracts. Because on Bitcoin, when you did a thing, even with NFTs, you bought it. You could tell on the blockchain you bought it. You could tell it was sold. You could tell these things. But there's not very much extra metadata. With the Ethereum, you can have entire, books worth of metadata attached to what happened, and learn so much about the NFT through that. So it just really changes the idea of whether you have the NFT or whether you don't have the NFT. But then again, just want to reiterate, no matter what they're pointing at, or whether it's on chain, or no matter what they do, the NFT itself is not usually considered the actual thing you see when you go to look in your wallet, unless it's on chain. Any other questions for our amazing panelists, or for myself, or any general questions that are just burning in your mind, and any questions about what NFT ATL.io is, what we're planning to do, and what we got coming up?
One other quick question. As an investor, if somebody wants to buy like a coin or a crypto, what did you mention? I heard you across Ethereum, Polygon. Are there any new companies that's okay, wow, you buy this stock, you might make some money, because it's building up this amazing platform for you to put your gaming stuff on or whatever. So, yeah.
I'll let y'all work it out. You got a great answer for this. There was an ICO thing a long time ago where 1 million coins came out every day, and every single one of them is really amazing. You see this roadmap. If you buy this coin, it's going to be 5 to 10 times tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you got 15 seconds to buy this, and we're closing out. If you don't buy this, by the way, I believe in the project. Oh, I got your money then.
You heard about, who did that?
Everybody.
Oh my God, there's somebody that recently just did that, very famous influencer that
Jacob.
No, it was the
Jacob
girl.
Yeah, it's a female.
Okay, female
Yeah.
did it too.
Yeah.
She had everybody was planning on it. 1.6 million. I think she made it. She's like,
And she's gone. They don't know what
We don't even know who she
She has a big too also.
There's Soldier Boy just here.
Yeah. So and I'll tell you, NFT culture and the crypto culture, and other sharks, I know someone can go with this. We tend to stay away from the idea of finding the next great thing as an investor, or because you are going to, if you look at 10 projects and one of them is absolutely astounding and 5 of them are probably pretty amazing, and then so you invest in the one that you're sure of and one of the 5 that you're not sure of. The astounding, amazing one is going to be junk, and the one random one that you got is going to go to the moon unexpectedly, and then you're going to go to sleep, and you're going to wake up, and it's junk again. It was only not junk for about 5 hours. So I personally stay miles away from all that. And that's why I like the NFT community, because I have a more intrinsic rationales and benefits, memberships, doxed people, a lot of other factors that at least give me some more assurances. But I will tell you, every day I see someone turning an NFT project into an ICO, cryptocurrency thing, and doing the same old crap that they did in 2017. So cautiously look at anything and try to find someone that you can track down if they run for you. Find someone that can't.
Platforms that these things are being built on, because if people are adding stuff to certain platforms are not going to just disappear overnight. So something that has more sustainability, or maybe not. I'm not the expert, so I don't know.
I mean, Coinbase got hacked since last week. This is too new for it to be stable. But you've got a point of experience in doing some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, I have talked to a lot of people about this, and I don't know, what project is going to pop off tomorrow or next week or the week after that, right? So I'll just try to give you some, good principles, right? The first principle is, obviously, you never spend money that you can't afford to lose, right? The next principle is you got to know what you're getting into, right? This is crypto. We're experimenting. Almost everything outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum is literally an experiment. I mean, those are too, but they're kind of more of blue chips, right? So, expect volatility, expect things to change. And what you said about platforms is true, and I definitely like, as an investor looking more into platform, like picks and shovels approach, right? But in crypto, everything's open source. right? So it's actually quite easy for, and projects will keep IP and certain things, but if you're deploying, if you're building something on Ethereum, for instance, you're going to need to put that contract onto Ethereum. Everyone's going to be able to see it, which means that, and someone, right, can, that went to, 2 weeks of Solidity school, right, can go and find your contract and copy it. And then what they can do, this is actually kind of interesting, it's called a vampire attack. They'll fork your contract, your protocol, right, and then they'll create some token, right, and they'll give that token to all of your users and be like, hey, come over here, and by the way, now we have a token. So this actually happened to OpenSea, right? OpenSea doesn't have a token. So there's actually more than one project, I think, that kind of launched, just looked at who were OpenSea's users, who's spending the most on OpenSea. The more you spend, we give you more of our token, and now come over here, right? And it works, to a degree. So that's why you kind of see projects now, nobody's going to launch without a token, right? Even if you don't really need a token, you got to kind of launch with a token. You got to find something to do with the token, because if you don't, you sort of open yourself up to this type of vampire attack. So that's just to illustrate the point, right? That no, things are not that as permanent as you might think, even at the platform level. So the last thing I would say is, the easiest thing to do is really just buy. The fact of the matter is that 99% of projects are not going to outperform. So when you look at something like CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, right, and it kind of lists the top crypto projects, and you see number 1 Bitcoin, number 2 Ethereum, and the other ones come back and forth. Those are there for a reason, right? That it's telling you these are the 2 projects that people are putting their money into. This is what people think are going to be successful. So if you're picking something outside of those top 2 and you're going down to coin XYZ or whatever, you are kind of your opinion is that you kind of know better than the market, right? Because the market is telling you which ones are the winners, right? The number 1 and number 2. So, and that's not to say that doesn't work. I'm invested in plenty of stuff that's not called Bitcoin or Ethereum, although that's mostly just what I keep. And so if you want to take, higher risk, higher reward type of plays and do it, in a calculated way, you can. You can, buy, find some projects that appeal to you that you think are legit, do your own research, engage, with them in the community, use the applications that they're building. Number 1 thing people don't do, right? Actually use those applications. And as you get more into Web3, that'll come easier to you. And then if you want to take some small bets and those types of things, you can totally do that. Right? And your expectation should be that it's going to 0. But, if you pick 10 and 9 of them go to 0 and 1 goes 20x, you're winning, right? So that's kind of what's been my approach to kind of investing in things outside of the top coins. But the easiest thing to do that people just kind of ignore is just, buy the top 2 or buy, number 2 if you really care about platforms and you're more into NFTs and all this stuff going on in Ethereum. And by the way, you can earn interest on those coins as well. You can actually hold Bitcoin, or you can hold Ethereum in certain wallets, or you can use certain apps in DeFi or otherwise. You can actually get paid passive income as you hold them. So you can talk to me after about that if you're interested.
And just one other thing to add on that reminded me that for bring back to NFTs, if you're looking to buy some NFTs, one thing I think you showed is about how to look at a contract on user scan. It may not be that quick, but that's definitely something that you need to learn how to do, is how to look at these NFT contracts on user scan, because they don't have to publish them. That's number 1. So if you look at this, you look for the contract that shows that they did publish it, you may want to not look at that NFT project. Because they don't have to publish it. They do that to verification. I had to teach him do that. We're going to verify this contract so people know exactly what the code is there. But even once they do that, and they get to the recontract and large contract button, you can actually, see what the code is there, and you may not understand it at first. But usually with most NFT projects, once you click those buttons, you can tell that most projects have some kind of mint button, some kind of transfer button some kind of withdrawal button because the money goes to the contract first before it comes to the contract owner and they have to withdraw it Sunday. And then you can kind of see the transaction button, so you can kind of see like who's buying when. And like I said, it may like look all strange to you, but once you learn how to do it, you'll be able to evaluate projects so much quicker. And even the one that you think like, well, they're not selling it, but for some reason they think they may do something. At least that way they make an informed decision instead of people talking about like we was talking about the ICO, like this thing coming. Actually looking to see what's happening with the blockchain. So definitely learn to do that.
All right, cool. Well, I would love to say thank you very specifically to our panelists. This meeting has been so amazing, and I just want to say thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause too. You guys have been sitting here for like 67 hours talking about Web3. And I hope that this last 2 days, and for your both days, or for your just one day, has been a crash course just to open the world up. I really hope that you take your time and go very slowly when you start moving back into this and start really getting into it. And when we send the LMS version of these presentations, that'll let you go back through, it'll show you specifically how to mint your own NFTs. It'll go back through the whole idea of what are NFTs and how to evaluate some of the ideas behind them. I do not get into price speculation, I said like that, but I may talk to Shahar about having a link so you can into our the body of that email that'll get you into their crypto groups so that you can start coming to in real life events and learning more about DeFi and NFTs and Cardano NFTs and all these other chains. How to for example, Cardano NFTs, there's really no gas. It's practically environmentally perfect over there. There's great projects. You can just start your entire career over there. And then just never look back. Just I'm a Cardano NFT artist. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's even more specialized inside of our world. People are going to go, oh, so you're real advanced, So there's reasons to do that, And coming from the art side, we've got people, in the the consulting and advising side, people that are deep in every aspect of it, in development, into the social and community aspects of it. And so let us know here at NFT ATL.io. Our purpose is to provide a space and a voice to everyone that's wanting to be in the space, a safe place to ask any question that you want to, no matter how deep you are in the space. We're going to have people talking about, liquidity pools, along with people asking what are NFTs, and we want those people in the same room so that we can create this synergy. And we want to provide information and advantages and tactical, strategies for diverse, representative, inclusive, and underrepresented artists and tech developers and community members in this space. So, what other things, Stephen? Thank you. Let's give a hand to Stephen too. Thank you so much. He came to me and was talking about Web3 and NFTs. Was like, I think that there is a big opportunity here. I've been talking about it a lot. Do you want to work on something in this space? Yes, definitely. And then we just rocked this out and put this together. I was so fortunate to find the panelists that we had found. It blew my mind because as I came in, I wasn't doing a lot of in real life events until very recently. So I hadn't met my own community. I hadn't really met my community. And so Shahar, out here for a year, going where you been, bro? And so I went to his thing and I met them. And I'm like, oh man, there's so many people that need to connect here, but everyone is still kind of what do I do? So we're going to be sending out. We're going to be doing monthly events here. We'll also send out, a monthly email that has incredible information, educational information in it, and links to all of the local people so you can connect and get to all these groups. So you can go to Karo's next, art showing so that you can hire Michael to be your next dev, so that you can hire Lila to help you get into the NFT world and understand all the different sides, from that onboarding perspective, There's a lot of opportunities here, and I don't think any of us even know exactly how deep it goes and who's in the community because of so many people still not coming out to real live events yet, So we'll all discover that over the next few months. So I highly, highly encourage you to go to some of these other events. When you look into the lobby, I've listed every NFT and Web3 event that I can find so far over here outside of just standard meetup groups. But we've got this week, started yesterday, Atlanta Digital Art Week. It's going all through the week. On Thursday, there's an NFT panel at Atlanta Underground. It is free to sign up. All the information is out there in the lobby. There's also NFT ATL Con that's being ran by the Melanated NFT Gallery, which is a Black and Afro Latin-centric organization. They've got a con coming up in May. It's going to be at Pool Yards. And then Render, which is like one of the most badass a developer cons that's been around here for a while. They're in June, and then there's going to be a whole lot more stuff popping up because we may have all been in this room. He knows a lot more people than probably most of us from all the crypto groups. But I bet you somebody is all completely separate from us, reinventing the wheel all by themselves. That doesn't know any of us. It doesn't know anyone else in the space yet. And have been working in isolation, right? So those people are going to pop out of nowhere with their NFT conference that I haven't even heard of yet. And it's going to be awesome. And as soon as we hear about those things, we're going to reach out to those people and be like, look, we're sending everybody. That's my job. My job is to make sure that if you can't find the resource you need here, then I help you find that resource. And that will be what we're doing for the next 12 months minimum until we do this again. And then we're going to see where things are at. So thanks so much. We're going to be heading out and doing thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah, another round for Jeremiah.